So he'd like an extra minute or so. He was talking to Carol.
Got it. Okay. I don't know why it's that wide in the middle, actually. They,
Time being 5:02, apologies for being late. I will now call to order the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board regular meeting. Secretary Ringgold, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Benny.
Here.
Commissioner Carbajal Moran.
Present.
Commissioner Engelhardt.
Here.
Commissioner Forney.
Here.
Commissioner Frederick.
Present.
Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Rucker.
Here.
Vice President Deshpande.
Here.
President Olson.
Here.
You have a quorum.
We are now on to approval of the agenda. Would someone please move the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Forney.
Just want to notify that if out of Edmund and Pine Vance, Resolution 2026-110, we'd like it to, if it approves, we'd like it to be brought forward to the full board.
Okay, thank you for that note. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, with that, our agenda is approved. On to approval of the minutes.
I'll move the regular meeting minutes of June 3rd, 2026.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of June 3rd, 2026, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That the minutes are approved. I do not believe we have reports of officers for this week, so we will move right on to reports of appointees to outside boards, commissions, or committees. Commissioners, anyone have anything to report? Okay. And with that, we will continue on our way on to consent business. Would someone like to move the consent agenda as a slate or pull any for discussion?
So moved.
President
Commissioner
Olson?
Benny.
Yes, thank you. I would like to pull Resolution 2026-116 for discussion.
Fantastic. That will be pulled. Would someone like to move the rest?
I'll move Resolution 2026-119, as well as Resolution 2026-107.
Fantastic. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And on to Resolution 2026-116. Would someone please move that for discussion?
I'll go ahead and move it. I'll move Resolution 2026-116, resolution awarding a construction contract to McClafferty Contracting Group LLC for the amount of $1,495,085.22 for trail improvements within Theodore Wirth Regional Park, located within the North Service Area. Bid event MPLMN number 4074, pending approval by the City of Minneapolis Finance and Property Services Procurement Division and Minneapolis Civil Rights Department, and authorizing administrative use of a 10% construction contingency up to $149,508.52 for necessary construction change orders that may arise with the contract.
Second?
All right. Discussion. Commissioner Benny.
Yes, thank you. Thanks. I wanted to pull this one because I'm aware of, that this is, for a couple of reasons. One is to say this is awesome. I mean, this is a great investment in trails and maintenance type work, which is going to be much appreciated. But also to highlight the fact that this is the first construction project that's had a project labor agreement since we have made that requirement for projects over $1 million last year. And so I was hoping to actually maybe ask some questions of the project manager or the people who worked on the project labor agreement, such as if maybe a description of what the project labor agreement is for and how the process actually worked. And then I might have some follow-up questions.
President Olson, Commissioner Bene. Mike Jones was the project manager for this project. I worked with Cliff Swenson when he was the director here on organizing ourselves around the new policy around project labor agreements. Generally, the project labor agreements are a way of us entering in, having our contractors enter into an agreement with the Minneapolis Building Trades Union to ensure labor on our projects if there are work stoppages. That's the primary goal for the agreements that we have. So in this case, our low bid contractor will be entering into a project labor agreement with the Minneapolis Building Trades Union.
As far as the process, this compared to what our typical process is, we did work with the design team and work with trades as far as integrating bidding documents that are aligned, and note that there's a PLA as far as the bidding aspect of it. During the bidding process, one change that was recommended is to have a mandatory pre-bid. This was a way for MPRB to highlight that there's a little bit of difference as far as the type of agreement that would be part of this. And then that allowed for any prospective bidders to ask questions in regards to the PLA agreement during the bidding process. After that process of bidding went through and we went through the low bidder aspect, we went to civil rights. And so civil rights, once we were awarded or notified that we have a responsive bid, we went and worked with the Minneapolis Building Trades organization, Dan McConnell, and they did their review in regards to that. One thing to know about this process, to come to the board for contract approval, it probably took a couple, 2 to 3 more weeks, I would say longer for the actual approval, mostly due to the aspect we had to wait a little bit longer on the civil rights review and approval and ensure that we had that approval through them before we started the process through Minneapolis Building Trades.
That's interesting, thank you. So, and as I understand it, it kind of protects all the parties, both the trade unions and then the contractor themselves, and because they're in charge of the project, but also the Park and Recreation Board. So, Mr. Elias, you also mentioned I mentioned the threshold. What are the triggers for a PLA on a construction project at the Park Board now?
Yeah, so President Olson, Commissioner Bene, the primary triggers for a project labor agreement are when we have a cost estimate basically with the most recent cost estimate that we have prior to bidding, estimating a contract over $1 million, or estimating that we would have 6 trades on the project at one time, or a construction project that would last longer than 12 months.
And I guess I have one more question. We've had a requirement, and that might be a City of Minneapolis requirement. I'm not sure where that comes from, but of course prevailing wage. In my day job, that we also have those requirements. So this doesn't really help with that per se. However, the firm that, or the contractor that was selected, McClafferty, through the low bid process is not currently a union shop. So this is something that connects them directly to the building trades. What's the name of the entity that Dan McConnell works for?
The Minneapolis Building Trades Union.
Yes, thank you. So I think there's a benefit there too for kind of setting the standard for how we want our projects to function, and we will benefit, I think, from no work stoppages and a commitment from the trades to provide the right labor for our projects as needed. So I think those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Benny. Commissioner Engelhardt.
I want to thank staff and Commissioner Bene for the thoughtful questions. Clearly, as the chair of the Committee of Employee Relations, we're not talking about employees of the Park Board, but contractors that do longer projects. It's not necessarily the purview of the committee I chair. That said, it's really important. I'm happy to see this moving forward, and I do appreciate the thoughtful questions. When a municipality is heavily union, such as Minneapolis, the prevailing wage is set by that union typically. So that's, that's kind of built in. So I appreciate that too. And this is a positive move forward to have this enacted with an actual project. So just wanted to comment on that. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of approving Resolution 2026-116, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? With that, it is approved. I'll suggest that we come back to the next item until after open time, as I imagine that's why lots of folks are here. So let's move on to the Administration and Finance Committee agenda items.
On behalf of the Administration and Finance Committee, I'd like to move Resolution 2026-104, resolution approving a construction cooperative agreement between Hennepin County and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board for the multi-use trail along Golden Valley Road on the north side of North Commons Park.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion, commissioners? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution 2026-104, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? With that, resolution prevails.
I'd like to move Resolution 2026-106, a resolution approving the fundraising agreement between the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board and the Friends of the Wildflower Garden for fundraising activities intended to support construction of a council ring gathering area as part of the entrance renovation project at Eloise Butler Wildflower Garden and Bird Sanctuary within Theodore Wirth Regional Park.
I'll second. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? With that, Resolution 2026-106 is approved.
I will move Resolution 2026-111, resolution directing consideration of fee exceptions for traditional cultural practices within the Minneapolis Park and Recreation System during the scheduled 5-year review of the policies and guidelines governing the use of the park system.
Second.
Discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We are now on to our resolution section. Would someone please move Resolution 2026-115?
I'll move Resolution 2026-115, a resolution approving an update to the Memorandum of Understanding between the City of Minneapolis and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board for the creation of a park at the new Nicollet, former Kmart, site at 10 and 30 West Lake Street in Minneapolis.
Second?
Okay. Discussion, Vice President Deshpande.
Thank you, President Olson. My question was just around what we're going to have, what we're getting out of this memorandum. It wasn't clear to me what extra work is going to be entailed or what we expect to get out of this.
President Olson, Commissioner Vice President Deshpande. The action before you takes an existing MOU that was approved about 2 years ago, in which there were kind of two different buckets of things that we knew we agreed on and things we need to still do some work on. And so for those 2 years, staff has been working with city staff to sort of move some of those unknowns into the knowns category. And we've got most of the things into the knowns category. So this MOU update doesn't specifically create any additional work for staff. We are already engaged at the direction of the board to explore the implementation of a park in this location. This updated MOU is an important step because one of the unknowns has to do with the timing of capital funding in order that that park can open at a time that's appropriate for when the development actually rises up out of the ground so that we don't have an empty park space when people are living there. That's a discussion that's probably going to need to have some solutions within the budget process and the next CIP. So we wanted to make sure that we were taking this step, that we were still in alignment with the city. In your opinion, the city will be taking this MOU through its process as well. And essentially what we're doing here is we're refining the terms to reflect the 2 years of work between the city staff and MPRB staff. There is a representative from the city staff team here today, Linnea Graufunder Bartles. I am sorry, Linnea. Linnea Graufunder Bartles is here if you have questions from the city side.
Thank you. And so does this MOU have anything also to do with the physical building space that we potentially could be leasing?
President Olson, Vice President Deshpande, it does. So the MOU further refines the likely use of that building space. There will continue to be some ongoing negotiation with the selected developer. But again, the MOU does make some commitment that we do want to occupy a space within that building to have eyes on the street, and that we're willing to be in consultation with the building developer in order to make that happen.
Okay, my last question is when we think the community engagement process will happen for the outdoor space?
Yeah, President Olson, Vice President Deshpande, there's been a lot of community engagement that has taken place on a collaborative basis between the city and the park board, most notably through project manager or senior planner Colleen Odell, who's unable to be here this evening. She would have presented this otherwise. They've been engaging the community for several years now around what kinds of amenities would be in the park. So we have a fairly good idea of what the community is interested in seeing there, but you're correct that the next step would be a design process. So once there is actually funding allocated for the capital investment, then we would initiate a typical park board design process and community engagement process to refine what that park is going to look like prior to its construction.
Great, thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution 2026-115, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? With that, it is approved. On to the next, would someone please move Resolution 2026-120?
I'll move Resolution 2026-120. Resolution approving an assignment and assumption agreement with the City of Minneapolis and Green Cities Accord, an amended and restated donation agreement for Downtown East Commons enhancements, the Commons, with Green Cities Accord, and terminating a memorandum of understanding and a ground lease between the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board and the City of Minneapolis, all related to the Commons, a part of the Minneapolis Neighborhood Park System.
Okay, it is moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion on the resolution? All right, seeing none, just checking for anything that would possibly need roll call. Nope, I don't think so. All those in favor of Resolution 2026-120, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, fantastic. All right, and then let's see here. I think we could probably now go back to the Planning Committee resolution rather than go into the maximum tax property levy. So I will reroute us back to Planning Committee.
Point of information, I'm wondering if it makes more sense to go to the levy discussion because I think we should hear from open time people and we still have 11 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I figured, is there a staff presentation associated with the Planning Committee item? Or
President Olson,
okay.
no, there is no staff presentation, but we will be available for questions.
then I agree.
Thank you very much,
that there's
President
something
Olson.
like that. So, all right, let's go on to the property tax levy. Finance Director, Director of Finance, Julie Wiseman, welcome.
Good evening, President Olson and Commissioners. I think I can talk for about 10 minutes before we get to the maximum tax levy. I did want to start by talking about conversations that we are starting to hear through the city of Minneapolis, in the media, about workforce optimization, budget pressures, property tax impact, and just talk a little bit about the different approaches that we have taken over time. The first thing I wanted to talk about is the Park Board and City Service redesign. Back in 1999, there was a work that was done between the City of Minneapolis and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. It was actually a 2-year project where we, the City and Park Board, reviewed over 20 service areas. And really the focus was on which organization is best capable of handling those different services. And at the time, Parkway Maintenance was moved from the MPRB, and to this day, City Public Works handles Parkway Maintenance. They also manage our Parkway Rehabilitation and Capital Program. They manage the Parkway Lighting. And at the time, stormwater transferred to the city, and it was the intention that the city would maintain our stormwater. Trails and bikeways, there was an additional study on that area. The trails and bikeways stayed mostly under the park board. There are some bikeways within the city that aren't managed by the park board. The urban forests, the parts of the urban forest that the city was maintaining, it was determined that the park board with our forestry department was better able to manage those. So the forestry operations for all urban trees moved into the park board. The city-owned green spaces, approximately 11 acres, came to the park board, and there was a conversation about composting facility developing a joint proposal. Since that time, we've done a lot of work to understand and address the service levels, especially in our stormwater area and our parkways, where it just wasn't keeping pace to the needs and the expectations and the requirements, the permit requirements, especially with our stormwater. And so the city initiated the stormwater utility fee in 2025, but they did not include a lot of the park board infrastructure when they started to develop their CIP program. So we negotiated with the city, and in 2023, through a concurrent an ordinance amendment and concurrent resolutions, we created, or the city adopted, a stormwater utility fee specific to the park board. And we've done extensive work developing a joint powers agreement, which is still under development, but close to being ready for approval. And we are in the process of developing our stormwater program to address the things that hadn't been addressed historically. And also for parkways, we negotiated an increase of dedicated funding to our parkways, negotiated that through the city, and the joint powers agreement for our parkway has been approved by both the Minneapolis Park Board and the City Council. Another thing I like this group to understand, or in the public to understand, is that MPRB pays for city services. We pay close to $2 million each year for the services that the city provides to the MPRB. We pay a city general fund overhead charge, which I will discuss in the next slide. We pay for the ERP system, which will be Workday, license fees or annual license fees. We pay for our subscription to the budget software that the city has. We pay for police dispatch, and we pay for the fleet software. Our mobile equipment fleet utilizes the city software. There are various other things that we pay for. There's also services that the city used to provide us, and they have pushed those back to the park board. So our largest fee that we pay the city of Minneapolis is for the city's general fund government services. So for 2026, they have proposed a $1.5 million fee, and it includes 311 services, city auditor, banking and investments, the Civil Rights Department, complaint investigations regarding civil rights, contract compliance. We pay for the city's finance and controller, elections, their executive branch, HR administration. So even though we have an HR department, even though we have a finance department, there's aspects of those functions that the city continues to provide for us, and we pay for those pieces. We pay for the mayor, we pay for the payroll function that the city does for us, and we pay for procurement. So what are our budget practices here at the park board? You'll hear the superintendent talk about that our budget is pretty lean and that we really manage our budget in such a way that we are providing resources in the most efficient way. We align our budget with the comprehensive plan, strategic directions, performance goals, and community priorities. We use equity, which is integrated into our budget development and resource allocation decisions. We continuously look for process improvements and operational efficiencies. This is core to our organizational culture and decision making. Our budget is structurally balanced with reoccurring revenues supporting reoccurring expenditures. We do not use fund balance to fund ongoing operations, as some other government entities have needed to do. Staffing levels and workforce impacts are always evaluated. We utilize vacancy savings, and we consider position conversions before adding to our workforce. And position conversions mean that before we request a new position, we look at all the positions in our organization and see if there is a position that maybe isn't necessarily needed, and we can convert it to the new position that is needed. We use multi-year financial forecasting to identify future opportunities and risks. We look at services and programs and prioritize that based on community needs. Our revenue projections are conservative and realistic, and our fees and charges are reviewed annually to adjust to market and ensure cost recovery goals are met. And
you.
with that, I can pause.
We will wait excitedly for what is next. Okay. So we are now into open time. I will read the open time rules as we head into that. Thanks to those of you who have come to speak during tonight's open time. The board's open time rules are as follows. I will call on people from the speaker list only. Names are added to the speaker list by calling in before 3 p.m. On the day of the meeting or by adding it in person at the board meeting before 5:30 p.m. The time allotted for all speakers shall not exceed 15 minutes. We have 34 speakers signed up tonight. So I'll give, that would be normally 30 seconds, but I'll give up to a minute for each person to speak, ending at about 5:37, giving some time for folks to come up and down. Time may not be transferred to someone else. Please watch the timer and stay within your allotted time. This is an opportunity for you to address the board. We are listening, but we will not respond. That said, please don't hesitate to contact any of the commissioners for dialogue and further discussion. To protect the privacy of individuals, please refrain from commenting on specific personnel issues or pending litigation. Discriminatory or harassing words directed at anyone will not be tolerated, and each speaker is asked to state their name and address. Commissioner Frederick, real quick.
Point of order, I believe that's the correct term. Could you restate what time we are set to end?
So we'll end, let's say now at 5:40, and so after your 30 seconds, I'll ask you to end. If you go beyond that, you'll be cutting
I think
into
we need to
someone else's
adjust our time.
I believe you said everyone would get a minute.
Oh, yeah, sorry, my math is really poor right now. That would be 6:06. Is that it? Yeah,
Sounds good to me.
sorry, everyone. Commissioner Benny.
Point of information, I've been in the board for 4.5 years. I don't recall cutting off open time before everyone that signed up has had a chance to speak, and we've gone over before. So I acknowledge that you're acknowledging that we're going to go over regardless, but I think we should let everybody have their minute, personally.
Well, in past meetings, we saw that it extended. I'm trying to be better about sticking to the time that's allotted.
I knew 5:37 was not correct.
Yeah, so it'll be 6:07. All right, we have Maria Damas first. So number 1 is Maria Damas, and then number 2 is Maria Sveznovic, and then number 3 is Ann Airbase. Maria Damas. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to share my perspective and also for your work. My name is Maria. I think I'm supposed to state my address. It's 4300 41st Avenue South in Minneapolis. I'm here to ask that you support Commissioner Abin's amendment to Resolution 2026-114 to vote to close any longstanding and loved community space without opportunities and time for community dialogue, even if it is the right decision, creates deep distrust and misunderstanding. I'm very concerned that this approach is inadvertently undermining the important goal of protecting sacred areas because of the distrust it is creating. Please support the amendment for meaningful engagement to cultivate understanding and trust and to support protection of sacred areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 2 is Maria Sveznovic, and then number 3, Anna Airbase.
Hi, I'm Mike Schulman. I'm at 209 Valley View Place in Minneapolis. I'm speaking on behalf of Maria Svetanovic, I think is how her name is pronounced. She's in St. Paul.
Could you speak up a little?
I'll try.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me time to talk on behalf of those who cannot speak, our past, current, and future dogs, for whom this area is of huge importance. This is a special place where they can be dogs, run untethered, and meet others of their kind in an open space. Considering the rising temperatures, it's also the only place where dogs can legally cool down. I also included the aerial images of this area in 1940 and the 1960s, showing us that most of the off-leash area and around used to be in the river, to remind us that this space belongs to nature with hope that we can respectfully coexist in it.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. We now have Anna Arbes and number 4, Chris Jensen, and then on deck, Jody Winan.
My name is Anna Erbs, address 4737 Blaisdell. I thank the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board members for the opportunity to speak in regard to the closure of the Minnehaha Off-Leash Park and Recreation Site. I request your consideration approval to reconsider this decision for a transparent, collaborative decision-making process with representative Minneapolis residents and in accordance with the community engagement process. I implore you to discuss an alternate transparent amendment for closure of the site and respectful of input from all concerned parties as proposed by board member Catherine Abedin. Abeni, I apologize. With respectful recognition of the board's recent findings of the Dakota burial sites, a very important factor.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Yes. Commissioner
Just
Forney.
point of order, if anybody has any copies that they'd like to share with all of us commissioners, you can give it to our staff. And then the other thing I was going to say is instead of clapping, maybe do what the Quakers do. It's just so we can all hear and move forward.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Forney. Number 4, Chris Jensen, and then number 5, Jody Winan. Welcome, Chris.
I'm Chris Jensen. I've been going to the Minnehaha Dog Park since 1998. I retired 12 years ago. I go virtually every day for 60 to 90 minutes. With Catherine Abeen sent me a note and said usually a decision of this magnitude would include public engagement and deliberation by the board. I'm asking for public engagement, that way we have a community discussion. In that community would include the indigenous, would include park permit holders, then we could ask questions of each other, learn from each other, and decide what our real true opinions are. In terms of the dog park, the board needs to understand, and I'd like the indigenous community to understand the stewardship that the permit people provide. It's incredible. No public land or water have I seen like this. 2 weeks ago, a Dakota member, Juanita Espinosa, said to you, we were born to take care of this place. As human beings, we are responsible. Water, trees, sky. That is what we permit holders believe. That is how we act. We clean the beach regularly. There have been 2 major events in the last decade.
Thank you. Jody Winan, number 5, and then number 6, Carter Kastmeyer. Welcome, Jody.
Good afternoon. My name is Jody Winan. I live at 16 Thomas Avenue South in Minneapolis, and I've been part of the Minnehaha Dog Park community for 15 years. The Minnehaha Off-Leash Recreation Area is currently the only place in Minneapolis where it is legal for dogs to swim, and that if this park is decommissioned, dogs will functionally be banned from swimming within the city. The summers are getting hotter, and dogs need access to water. Water is life, and they have a right to it just as much as we do. The lakes aren't an option because of the seasonal algae blooms. There isn't any readily available land with river access in the city to turn into an alternative dog park. Minnehaha is all that we have. It's the only place left. Coldwater Springs and Pike Island are both nearby. and are already established as traditional cultural spaces with protected prayer space. The dogs only have Minnehaha. We, the off-leash permit-holding long-term users of the dog park, would not be in this crisis if the park board had gone through with its normal procedures of public engagement and planning. The land is not
Thank you,
incompatible for us to coexist. I strongly encourage that you all adopt Bene's amendment.
Thank you, Jody. Carter Casimir, and then Deb Levitt, number 7.
Greetings, my name is Carter Casimir. I live at 16 Thomas Avenue South. Shout out to Commissioner Bene for being the adult in the room. We love our dogs here. We honor them, we protect them, we advocate for them, and we treat them with love and respect. They have no voice and no recourse in this. They give us everything, and all they ask for is a shred of land where they may run and swim and be free. Your response to this has been to actually denigrate them as grave robbers and tattletales who steal prayers and desecrate the land by their very presence. You've ignored dissenting voices within and outside of the Native community. You're using the religious preferences of a single group and incorporating them into public policy making. You've stifled requests for more information by journalists with a predictable and sophomoric strategy of calling these requests disrespectful in order to stifle public critique. This is what punching down on dogs looks like. Loud and clear. It's a bad look for the board and an embarrassment for Minneapolis. Actions matter more than words, and when people show you who they are, believe them. Supporting this resolution is going to worsen animal welfare in our city. Period. Full stop. Do better.
Thank you, Carter. Number 7, Deb Levitt. And then after that, we have Devika Guy, number 9. Yep.
Oh, cool.
Welcome, Deb.
Because that's who I am. Hey, thanks for opening up the meeting today for all of us to come here. I do recognize some faces out here. I'd recognize a lot more faces if they had their dogs with them, because that's how we all say hi to each other, is really recognize. There's a man who has a dog named Norm, and I always go, hey, Norm, and I don't know his name. But here's my little thing that I just want to add. The case for honoring the Dakota cultural sites is real, period. I want to learn more about the sacredness of the current dog park. I'm not here to argue the meaning of the land. I'm not. I want to protect sacred land. But what seems to be missing here is deep community collaboration. An abrupt closure of a community park with no alternative seems unnecessary. The first park in Minneapolis board history to close a park, decommission a park, is my understanding. So without that collaboration from all of us, as you can tell, we all care, it seems short-sighted. Please don't close it until there's another location. If you're going to close it, if you all have to move on.
Thanks, Deb.
You got to have another alternative before you close it. You got to listen to everybody. There's passion
All
here.
right, number 9, Devika Guy, and then number 10, Jessica Rosenberg.
Hi, good evening. My name is Devika. I live at 2925 17th Avenue South in Minneapolis. Thanks for taking the time. I'm here because this land is really important to me. I go there every Friday with my dog, and I meet up with my best friend and his dog. And this is a really important place for us, for all 4 of us, and the land has been such a big part of that. And because this is such a beautiful, important place in our lives, it just seems clear to me that it cannot continue to be a site of land theft and a site of violence against Indigenous people. There's clearly the right thing to do is to decommission the dog park, and I hope that we can find a good alternative. But I hope that finding the alternative doesn't just mean that we are not taking the right step, taking one small step to correct enormous wrongs, past and present. So although I'll miss the dog park, I hope to be part of taking that small step to correct wrongs. Thank you for considering it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Devika. Jessica Rosenberg, and then Matthew Kim, number 11.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rabbi Jessica Rosenberg. I'm at 3600 block of 14th Avenue. I'm a proud dog parent who loves the dog park, and I'm also a rabbi whose role in my community is to serve and protect our ability to practice our traditions and spiritual practices. And I'm here to urge you to support the resolution to decommission the off-leash recreation area. It is an honor and a privilege to live in a place with such a thriving Indigenous community who are already doing so much incredible work to honor this land and their home on it. And we have an incredible opportunity tonight to do something powerful to support our city in making a choice that will protect the sustainability of the land and the people for generations to come. My dogs love the dog park. They also love literally anywhere else they get to go outside and on a walk. If you do go forward with the community process, I'll be back to once again advocate for honoring sacred sites, which we should be doing for our people and our neighbors every chance we get.
Thank you. Matthew Kim, and then Cody Oliver, number 12.
Thank you for this opportunity. Matthew Kim, 4300 41st Avenue South. I'm speaking to express support for Commissioner Abney's amendment that increases transparency in any decision to decommission the Minnehaha Park, dog park, regardless of anyone's opinion of whether the dog park should remain open. The current process, which, whether intended or not, has the appearance of being rushed, veiled in secrecy, and lacking meaningful public communication, unnecessarily sows mistrust and creates division. While it's my personal hope that a solution can be found that will honor the historical and cultural significance of the native sacred grounds, while also maintaining the aspects of the park that dogs and their people love, I hope that the Park Board will commit to meaningful public dialogue before making a decision that abandons the democratic principles that hold our community together. Please vote to support the Benny Amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew Kim. Cody Oliver, number 12, and then Benicio Mendiola Johnson, number 13.
Hello, my name is Cody Oliver. I live in South Minneapolis. I'm here to just ask you, please don't build a chain link fence in this park. Fences don't work. People cut them. People are going to go around them, especially when it's in a floodplain. This fence isn't going to be enforced. The only thing it's going to accomplish is disrupting nature. It's going to be disrupting the beauty, and it's increasing the likelihood of a conflict as without it going all the way down the beach. It's going to create confusion between regular park goers and dog park goers. There is tax money that is already going into this, and I'm just asking, why are you wasting taxpayer resources to make a fence that won't work and try and create a new dog park when there's already a dog park that is beloved? The sad truth is that you're not going to find a place in the city that doesn't have some type of significance to a group of people. So please save the dog park, save the taxpayer resources, and please use that money.
Thank you, Cody. Thank you. Benicio, number 13, and then number 14, William Morissette.
Benicio Mendiola Johnson, 611 East Franklin Avenue. I spoke a couple weeks ago saying I feel like another day that we leave this dog park open is another day that trauma continues for a community that has dealt with generations and years and hundreds of years of trauma. But over the last week, I spent a lot of time following the public discussion around this proposal. People have every right to disagree with this resolution and advocate for a different outcome. But what has concerned me is the amount of public commentary disrespecting, dismissing, or questioning the testimony of Dakota elders, First Nation elders, cultural leaders, and knowledge keepers. Throughout this process, we have heard and we continue to hear from Dakota elders, cultural leaders, about the significance of this place. We've heard from numerous people who have shared why the site remains important to Dakota people today. People can disagree about policy. They can ask questions about the process. That's part of a healthy public conversation. But disagreement should not become disrespect and dismissal. I hope that regardless of where people stand on this resolution, we take seriously the testimony that has been shared and treat those voices with the respect they deserve.
Thank you, Benicio. William Morissette, and then number 15, Andrea Williams.
Hi, my name is William Morissette. I live at 1009 Queen Avenue North. I've been going to the off-leash park since the late 90s, and when I came to this meeting today, I hadn't planned on speaking. I certainly didn't prepare anything. However, I did feel compelled to make my voice heard. I would ask the board to please continue community outreach and to consider finding a safe alternative for all parties and to respect the land while also maintaining a off-leash area at Minnehaha. I would also like to challenge the board to perhaps consider providing another alternative solution where we can also have water access for our dogs. In the land of 10,000 lakes, it does seem obscene that we have only one safe and legal area to recreate with our dogs in the water. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, William. Andrea Williams, or Andrea Williams, and then Catherine Millure, number 16.
Hi, my name is Andrea Williams, 3128 39th Avenue South, Minneapolis. I've been going to the dog park for 15 years. I built my best friendships there. It's honestly the place that I want to recreate. There's not a lot as a dog owner, no kids, that the parks offer me. I don't use the wading pools, I don't use the playgrounds, I use the dog parks. And closing this dog park is the wrong decision because you're removing the fellowship and the community that stands behind me. Like I said, I recognize a lot of these faces. I know them by their dogs, and it is the place where I choose to go. I am a soil scientist by profession. I do not argue that the land is special. It is, but there are only so many resources that we have as the public of this community, and we have to share those resources.
Thank you, Andrea. Number 16, we have Catherine Milieu, and then 17, Jane O'Loughlin.
Hello, my name is Catherine Milieu, 261 Queen Avenue North. I've been going to Minnehaha Dog Park for 10 years now. It is the only safe flowing water source for dogs, especially at the end of the season where the algae blooms come. The parks can't regulate what lakes have it at what time. It's very dangerous. The land is very special. I hope we can find a common use space for the natives and the dogs because we all respect the land the same. And thank you.
Thank you very much. And then we have Jane O'Loughlin and then Chuck Gusnell. Welcome, Jane. Just real quick, I just want to thank everyone for sticking within the time allotted. I really appreciate the respect you're giving to everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm Jane O'Loughlin, 4629 Colfax, and I want to thank Commissioners Garcia and Engelhardt for replying to my email last week in support of quite a sizable Friends of the Minnehaha Off-Leash Dog Park set of recommendations for procedure steps to cover the gaps that I don't think are actually done here. I don't use the dog park. I'm here because I object to this, what I perceive to be virtue signaling to generate some opposition. The two people who responded to me weren't commissioners when we went through the fight over the fencing. That was an original NPS request. That wasn't Native American request. So it was on their behalf. But the Coldwater Spring was only designated as a traditional cultural property in 2023. This is really recent. There's a lot of stuff that we don't know about this. So we need more data.
Thank you very much, Jane. Chuck Gusnell, number 18, Chuck Gusnell, and then number 19, Jack Colota. Welcome, Chuck.
Hi, Chuck Gosnell, 250 Park Avenue, Minneapolis. It's my first park board meeting, and I got to say, walking up the hall, I was impressed with the building, all the awards on the wall. Going through the agenda, I see expansion of trails, evaluating new parks, growth. I use the bike system, the bike trail system every day, bike commuter, and except for this one thing. This one thing seems to be shoot first, ask questions later, close the park, then we'll figure it out. And it just doesn't seem like the way this committee should work. So I ask you to please reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chuck. Jack Colota, and then Blaze Cates, number 20.
Hey everybody, Jack Colada. I'm in the 31st block of 21st Ave. I think you all should be commended for seriously considering Indigenous importance for this land. I'm also really hoping for some more planning and transparency where appropriate when it comes to considering completely decommissioning the park. I think the public deserves to know as much as possible about any archaeological surveys that were conducted, including who conducted the work and their methodology, even if all information cannot ultimately be made public. We recognize that. The park board needs to show it at least considered meaningful alternatives to simply closing the off-leash area entirely. And further, it needs to fully fund alternative areas before the closure. What would responsible boundary reduction look like? Added fencing, interpretive signage, Could there be permit funds shared with the Dakota tribe? Doing this process well is going to take more than 1 month you've allowed. If closure is necessary after comprehensive, transparent process, please designate an equivalent 6+ areas of natural area in South Minneapolis, which specifically lacks dog parks. We support Commissioner Ben's amendment, and we need some more time than we have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Number 20, Blaze, and then number 21, Gary Spears.
My name is Blaze Cates. My name is Blaze Cates. And I wanted to say hello to my relatives and just to say thank you for having meaningful engagement with the Dakota community as well as the broader community for potentially the most tangible way since Minneapolis was declared a city. So, yeah, big thanks. Wopira Tonka. Please keep going. Thank you all.
Thank you, Blaze. 21, Gary Spears. 22, Araceli Casasola. Welcome, Gary.
Hello, my name is McGizzy Spears, or Gary Spears. I'm a member of First Nations United. For the past 1,614 days, we've had a petition to change the name of Sibley Park. We've removed that name there, and our petition has been ignored, even though we've had Leonard Peltier, we've had chairmen on there, we've had elders from Lower Sioux, and many other people from Dakota 38 on there. I'd ask today, this dog park thing that's upset me, what I've seen on the newscast there is that they had a petition. That petition shouldn't be looked at. Ours has never been looked at either. That would be considered racism if you had European Americans sign a petition and natives on there being ignored. I also, our camp here from February 9th to March 15th triggered a lot of this discussion here with the Coldwater Springs. This is a land back movement of what we've done out there. And we need our sacred sites respected out there. We don't need to be met by violence like we were on March 6th by thugs and intoxicated gang members.
Thank you,
But
Gary.
I was just letting you guys know we need to be heard. Our Native people have been here for thousands of years, not 100 or 250 years or whatever that is. We've been here for 30,000 years. Thank you guys for listening today.
Thank you, Gary. Araceli Casasola, and then number 23, John McCartan. 22. 22 and then 23.
Good evening and thank you for your time. My name is Araceli Casasola and I'm a proud resident of District 6 at the 30th block of Holmes Avenue. I wanted to thank Commissioner Avine for her amendment. Our most successful parks are accessible, beautiful, and fun for our furry friends, and for decisions to be transparent. However, I do not believe that these things are mutually exclusive with our respect for Indigenous neighbors, and I oppose an amendment that would change the language to one that seeks to keep the dog park open. Let me be clear that this issue is not free from our involving conversations about race, history, and privilege. I hope, as a former history teacher, that this can be the beginning of the work of educating the public, and have a sincere, informed, and inclusive conversation about the future of a sacred space. I asked the Commission to start the work of addressing historical injustices here, and I look forward to more respectful, informed places to invest our dog parks and hopefully open new ones. By passing this resolution as written and trusting the due diligence of the work done with 22 Indigenous communities, we affirm our commitment to listening to our often ignored Indigenous neighbors. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Araceli. 23, John McCartan, and then 24, Mike Forsha. Welcome, John.
Thank you. John McCartan, 5600 Nicollet Avenue South. I just wanted to say a couple of things about my opposition to closing the dog park. I do believe that this is a religious issue that's being handled by a public entity, the park board. It just doesn't seem to me that a religious issue should be something that the park board is forcing on other people. I also think that there's no reason why this area cannot be shared. I do understand that it is held in regard, very high regard by people other than myself, but at the same time, I've been to this park maybe 250 times over the last couple decades. I'm simply not running into people practicing religious ceremonies or doing religious things there. I'm seeing families with dogs. I'm seeing people bird watching. I'm seeing people from out of town down by the river. The last thing I want to say is that there is no other space in Minneapolis for a dog park. Who's kidding? There is no other space that you can find that people can actively take their dogs to and run around like they can here. The running water is important. Lakes will kill dogs with algae. Running water is important.
Thank you, John. 24, Mike Forsha, and then at 25, Erica Crazy Hawk.
Hello, commissioners. Glad to be back. We all know what's going to happen. This park is going to be closed. It's going to happen. And I just don't know why it's not closed today. You already know the harms that it's been doing. You already told what's been going on. And to all you all, imagine that area before the white man, before the Pilgrims, Pioneers, and Settlers, the extreme white Christian terrorist who showed up on this land. Imagine what the Dakota were going through. Beautiful. And then they hit, turned it into a concentration camp. And you think of Bergen-Belsen, Auschwitz, and Birkenau. Would you like to see a dog park in those places? Those are sacred places now. So really, you guys have no say in this whatsoever. That park is being closed. Sorry about that. Get used to it. But you have no say. Just like changing Eastville or Sibley Park. Sibley Park, you have no say.
Thanks.
You have no say. It doesn't concern you. It concerns the Dakota people and the park board.
Thank you. All right. Erica Crazy Hawk. Let's please, everyone, this is not productive.
Mike.
This is not productive. It's okay. We're all neighbors. Welcome, Erica. And then 26, we have Al Flowers following.
Yeah, hi. Hello, hi. My name is Erica Crazy Hawk Jones. I'm an enrolled member of the Crow Creek Sioux Tribe, Dakota Excelled. And it's good to be standing back up here again with you guys after Camp Minneapolis. So I did have an experience down there, and I didn't like it. I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like what I felt, and it's a shame on you guys. My grandmother was kept down in that concentration camp, taken off that ship and raped. It's a shame on you. Sitting here asking for a vote. Us Dakota Excel did not have a vote. We were forced on that ship. So like I said, have some freaking respect, because dogs are sacred to us. They are. You know what we do with dogs.
Thank you, Erica. 26, we have Al Flowers, and then 27, we have Ori Wasserberg. Please, everyone, let's not have conversations like this here. Erica, please.
We didn't even get to find our bones yet, our ancestors. There shouldn't even be a vote on this at all. None of you guys. I respect your opinion and your words and all of that, but none of you guys can stand here and tell me a Dakota Excel raped, okay? I want some fucking healing too. I should be able to come back here and pray on my goddamn land, especially after the way we were treated.
Thank you, Erica, please.
Especially after the way we were treated.
We hear you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
better. I hope you do.
Enough is enough, man. Enough is enough. That's everything. Why do you need more? Why do you need more?
Okay, everyone. Let's please proceed.
Go now.
Al, welcome. Thank you.
Hey, happy Juneteenth week, y'all. This is Juneteenth week. And I'm gonna say that to you too, Mike. When you come up here, I'm watching on TV when you try to play down what our ancestors did. So somebody got to pay us. Somebody got to pay. No, you don't want to talk. Somebody got to pay us reparation, Mike. If you want to pay it, yeah. If you want to pay it, then you do it. So, but I was watching you on TV when you tried to downplay Juneteenth. Juneteenth, and don't do that, because our ancestors built a lot on this land. Absolutely. Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely. I'm just telling you, I was watching on TV, so we got more respect than that. I came to say to the park, we had our Juneteenth at Bethune Park. We had a great June. We had a great, yeah. Hey, we had a great Juneteenth. I want to thank the park for that collaboration and partnership with the community about what we had at Bethune Park. We had bingo for people. They was winning TVs and vacuums, and the kids was playing. We had over 1,000 kids out there. That's what I like about our Juneteenth, the original Juneteenth. It was great, and last year I came and thank y'all for that collaboration and that partnership with us doing that. And so, again, that's what I came to say today. And y'all got to deal with what y'all dealing with. But happy Juneteenth, and everybody get Friday
Thank you,
off.
Al.
Everybody get Friday off. You get Friday off for what we went through. So I just want to say that.
Thank you very much for that, Al. All right. Nearing the end here. Thank you, everyone. Number 27, we have Ori Wasserberg, and then 28, Star Cloud.
Hello, Ori Wasserberg, 4805 Fifth Avenue South. I'm speaking in support of the resolution to decommission the Minnehaha Dog Park and restore the land as a traditional indigenous sacred site. As you can see from my hat, I love dogs, and going to the dog park has been a critical part of my last decade in Minneapolis. Even more critically to my time in Minneapolis has been the current and historical impact of the indigenous communities of Minneapolis. While my 10 years at the dog park feels meaningful, it's nothing compared to the thousands of years of connection and culture that the Dakota community have to this land. I will miss the dog park, but I am more than willing to drive a bit further if it means that our robust and powerful indigenous community have access to more of their rightful historical and sacred land. Thank you.
Thank you, Ori. 28, Star Cloud, and then 29, Ron Werner.
Hi, I'm Star Cloud. I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota. The original people of this land were murdered at the hands of our government. There is blood on your hands. If you want your dog to have more rights than a person, your neighbor, a fellow human being, shame on you. Shame on you. If you can't figure out another spot to walk your dog, then you might not be smart enough to own one. Do what's right, do what's just, give the Dakota their land back, dismantle this dog park, and let the original people bring back the original name.
Thank you, Star Cloud. Ron Werner, 29, and then number 30, Seth Borland. Welcome, Ron.
Well, I'm going to change it up a bit. Ron Werner, west side of Cedar Lake. Maggie Korth, I'm going to start out. Maggie Korth, Star Trib article, "This land is our land, but it sure feels like their land." And she said this about Southeast Cedar Lake: "There's nothing to tell the public the shoreline is ours. There's nothing to tell the public the shoreline is ours. There's little way for us to tell where we are and are not allowed to be. What is the impact of undefined public parkland boundaries? Undefined public parkland boundaries of parkland, exacerbated by permitted private encroachments, significantly degrade the quality, accessibility, and public perception of park spaces. These situations often make public land feel exclusive, uninviting, and unusable for the general public, turning public assets into private exclusionary zones."
Thank you, Ron. We now have Seth Berlin, number 30, and then 31, Suzu Jeffrey, and then just a few more.
Thank you. My name is Seth Berlin. I live at 30th Avenue South in Minneapolis. I know this is a very hard decision, and we're talking about dogs, but I would like to point out, I've read everyone's profile. It's about inclusion and making spaces open to everyone. I believe there is a solution that we can find to respect everyone. I want to respect the Lakota community. I want to respect indigenous people. But I also believe that this is a special place that is egalitarian. It is the happiest place that I've seen in this state, in the city, and it could be in this country. I want to make the land available to you. Can we try to find a way to educate and inform? You can have the sacred places, but let's not deny.
If you would please address the board, Seth, just to
Thank
keep
you.
things moving. Thank you.
So, tough decision, I understand. Let's have more time to think about it. Everyone has issues, everyone has emotions. This is an important decision.
Thank you, Seth. 31, Suzu Jeffrey, and then 32, Christine Tuhi. Suzu? Welcome.
Susu Jeffrey, speaking for Friends of Coldwater. I challenge the legality of the park board to decide who can be on this land. This land was only part of the United States because of an illegal treaty. It's called the Pike Treaty, the 1805 treaty with the Sioux. That treaty was never verified. It's not a legal treaty, and this is a federal land case. This is not city who gets to walk where. Coldwater was used in 1976 as an emergency drinking water supply for the people of South Minneapolis. I'm quoting one of the women who used that. City water developed an algae that was putrid and undrinkable by my husband, who was very ill at the time. I made trips every other day to Coldwater Spring and stood in line to get the best tasting fresh water. Whoa. I challenge the right of the park board to decide about this land. It's not legal. It's not your decision.
Thank you, Suzu, and you can share your information and that historical quote with our staff, and we can read that. Christine Tuhi, and then Luke Bedner.
I'm Christine Tui at 2531 Lindale Avenue South. I homeschool my daughter, who's 12, at this land, and she's autistic. And Violet knows which plants will poison her, and she knows which plants will remedy it, and she knows which berries she can eat, and she knows which spiders live there because she walks in her bare feet there and steps over them and studies them, and she knows what tadpoles look like in all their stages of development because she scoops them up in her hand and studies them. So my daughter embodies being one with the land, and I would like more time because I would like to find creative solutions where I think people who use a dog park are eager to learn. I think most people are eager to learn. I think this can actually be a place where instead of a bunch of dissent, where we can accept Indigenous leadership in education on how we can better use the land and have dogs there too.
Thank you, Christine. 33, Luke Bedner, and then last but not least, 34, Amy Storbakken.
Luke, 1122 Oliver Ave. First off, land back, obviously. If my family's graves were being utilized for dog park, I would be devastated. I understand the sadness of the land being taken from those who use it as a dog park, but the irony is a little thick. Let's know our history. Let this land be given back. I'm here for an entirely different topic, but I felt I need to weigh in because I'm scared the native voices are being silenced again. We live in Minnesota, Dakota word that describes our state. Minneapolis derived also from Dakota word, our city. People say the name of our city and state many times daily, but we're still considering ignoring this proposition to close the dog park, which is concerning. I feel 1 minute is criminal. I request the meeting agenda not be approved when the police and IT services team together get double the speaking time. And the community that we represent, as referencing the last board meeting, that's not to be, mad about anything. It's just what I believe. I think we need some more time. I'll be back for discussing the inclusion of native edible plants on Highway 55 MN reconstruction 2029.
Thank you very much, Luke. 34, Amy Storbakken, and then that's all. Welcome, Amy.
Amy Storbach in St. Paul, Minnesota. I used to live in Minneapolis. Have been using the dog park for many years. It does seem undemocratic to close it. That's a real problem. And also too fast. I just heard about this today via NPR radio. I think a lot of people had this sprung on them. I called a good friend of mine who used to have a dog, but now the dog is dead. But, you know, he was very surprised. He hadn't heard about it either. So it seems like a big enough park. Seems like we should be able to share it in a reasonable way. It seems like graves should be up on the top of the cliff, not down on the sand, where it floods twice a year, or used to. So let's compromise. I think try to make it work and postpone voting. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for that discussion. I will now close open time. We will return to our discussion on our property tax levy, and then we'll be returning to discussion on the dog park immediately after that. Oh, sorry, Secretary Ringgold.
President Olson, since this is a study item and doesn't have an action associated with it, if you wanted to move on to the dog park conversation, you could. And we
Yeah,
could
let's
come
do
back
that.
to this.
Okay, while folks are here and listening, would someone please move the resolution for the Planning Committee?
Right. So, on behalf of the Planning Committee, I would like to move Resolution 2026-114, resolution directing the superintendent to initiate a process to decommission the Minnehaha off-leash recreation area in advance of the scheduled Minnehaha Regional Park long-term plan update.
Second.
Fantastic. On to discussion. All right, I saw Commissioner Benny first.
Thank you, President Olson. I think we should I would like to move right into talking about the amendment that I've put forward. So I'd like to go ahead and move the amendment that I prepared and that's been on with the agenda since Friday.
Okay, fantastic. Would you like to?
I would like to move the amendment for discussion.
Okay, would you like to read it, please, for
Okay,
folks
sure.
who are present?
Sure. Basically, it amends the resolution 2026-114, and it works with that existing resolution. But I would say that the crux of it is it's not defining the ultimate decision. It's seeking to define the process to get to an ultimate decision. And the key pieces here would be that we would direct the superintendent to develop a plan, which was part of the other resolution as well, and process to consider or for consideration of the suitability of continuing the off-leash recreation area within the boundaries of Minneapolis, and I apologize, I haven't said that out loud to at this point, which is the traditional cultural place, and the Minnehaha Regional Park, and that we would have a draft presented to the board no later than the September 16th, 2026 meeting, and it sure could come sooner than that, which would give us more information about a potential new recreational off-leash areas, the community engagement plan, details of an advisory committee, and the communications plan, and a timeline for completion of the project. So that is essentially the amendment that I'm moving. Is there a second on that?
We have a second from Commissioner Rucker to discussion on the amendment. Typically, you are good, okay. Commissioner Engelhardt, your light was on for that.
Yeah, thank you, and appreciate Commissioner Bene bringing this amendment forward and everyone that's spoken tonight. When I learned of the situation here, it was a very clear choice. It was just the right thing to do, to decommission this park. I questioned Commissioner Garcia about why December 31, that was too long. I do vehemently agree with testimony we heard in open time about every day is an extension of ongoing legacy trauma. It is not hard to educate yourself on
the genocide and the ongoing genocide and the concentration camp that was there when you go to that beach at the end by that backwater. That is not dog park land. That is land that dogs are not supposed to be going on. So now we're hearing about fencing, and maybe we should put the map up and look at what we actually have so we understand what we're actually talking about. This choice was as clear to me as the choice to put my dog down on Monday. So we had to end her suffering. Her body gave out. And we need to end the suffering of our Native relatives with this choice. I believe that this amendment, I'm open to hearing what commissioners' thoughts are here, and we've heard from community in many ways. And I have heard from so many of my constituents that this is the right thing to do, and this is why we elected you. And yes, you can look at my website. I stand on my values. I love dogs. I love off-leash dogs. She was a water dog, through and through. She loved it there too, and I can tell you more stories about being in deep depression and going there every day. A friend would drag me out of my house. It's a special place, and it's not closing. It's closing to off-leash dogs. There is so much misinformation because people are in their feelings. And if you're willing to work with us, I want to make this a net gain. Look, I don't think we need an amendment. I don't think we need an amendment.
Everyone, please,
I don't think we need an amendment to engage in public discussion and education. I do not believe our staff that nearly experienced physical assault when the discussion was around fencing deserve any more abuse, and I definitely don't believe our Native community owes you any more than you've already gotten in the abuse tonight alone. So why would we continue that? But you can bring the heat to me, okay? Bring it to me.
It's okay, Dan.
And I want to see this as a net gain. So you want to learn? You work with people. That's how you learn. So work with me, and let's make this a net gain. I think there's multiple locations we can find these qualities of wooded. I have ideas, but how can I work with people who yell at me like this? I could name them, but I'm not going to with people that yell at me. So I'm opposed to this amendment, but I'm open to hearing why commissioners might be thinking about it. And I think some people need to learn respect. This is not animal abuse. As someone who just had to put their dog down. Choose your words better.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks, everyone. Let's, Dan, I appreciate those words, but let's, as commissioners, let's try to, not be directing conversation that encourages kind of response in this moment. It's not productive. And also, folks in the audience, please do not shout back and respond. It's, this is a very, difficult thing for all of us. And, we're all working through it together right now. This is the process. It's messy, it's ugly, it's all these things. So with that, Commissioner Engelhardt, if your light's still okay, to the amendment, please, folks. Commissioner Frederick.
Yes, to the amendment. When I saw this amendment come through, the first thing that came to my mind was potentially a study item like this, or a study that would look towards a different resolution could end in dogs being permanently banned, which is different than the resolution we have in front of us today. So I just want folks to consider that potentially going through with an amendment like this could lead to a decision you're more uncomfortable with dogs being not suitable for the land there. So I find this to be an incredibly equitable middle ground, especially when we're considering that this land prior to, I believe this dog park is 30 years old. Prior to that, so the Dakota people have existed on this land for over 13,000 years. It's inconceivable to people who maybe don't have a connection. I myself am an immigrant, as it goes by colonial standards, and the importance of being able to have conversations surrounding that do come with robust information. And I apologize to anybody who was unable to access that. I think we definitely need to work on our communication. So to the amendment, I want to point out that this study was available and was not presented to the previous board. The previous board president, many of your district commissioner, Kathy Abeni, at the time,
Commissioner Frederick, please let's not be.
Right, I
referring
apologize.
Specifically
This
to
study
our
item,
colleagues.
this study item could have been presented to community before, and I apologize that that was not the case. So we have to rectify something that we were unable to deal with last time as new commissioners to decide how do we stand in good relationship when the land was the discoveries, you know, our Western colonial discoveries, I guess, of this land were passed over by the previous board. So that is something that I hope to rectify, but I stand with my Dakota siblings in the fact that we do have to move forward, and they were not given engagement opportunities when their land was stolen. So I think we have to be very clear and concise about why the information was withheld. I think it's very important because we're getting a lot of slack or flack or whatever, but you guys deserve to know what happened too. The previous board could have dealt with this and engaged with you as well. So I think that's an important aspect. So this amendment is frivolous, and I will not be supporting it today.
Thank you, Commissioner Frederick. I believe I saw Commissioner Rucker before Commissioner Carvajal-Moran.
All right, thanks. You know, for me, you know, being black and, you know, what we had to go through, we went through similar things that the indigenous went through. I have a lot of indigenous relatives. And, you know, with that being said, I still would like for the Dakota, the constituents, the staff, and the commissioners to have some dialogue on what's going on here. And the reason why I say that is, you know, being a black person, because we don't get the conversations. Things just happen. We open up our window, you know, one day, our curtains one day, then something doesn't happen. No community engagement. You know, I just wish we can, you know, come to a solution where, you know, hopefully everybody's happy. You know, that's why I'm supporting this. This amendment is so we can have dialogue. And, you know, I'll sit at the table, you know, with the Dakota, with the constituents. You know, but we need to be, you know, more transparent when it comes down to, you know, situations like this. You know, and furthermore, you know, I mean, I'm hearing the water and things like that. I mean, you know, I would like to talk to Dakota, you know, people as well. Would you be open to on leash, you know, anything like that? I don't know. I'm just putting that out there, but I just wanted to find out, you know, is that an option? You know, and go from there, you know. So I'm going to support the amendment, and we'll just go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rucker. I think we are on to Commissioner Carvajal-Moran now.
So first of all, I just want to thank all of you for being here. I know that it does take an effort to come and testify. So if anything, I just want to thank you all. I won't be supporting the Abeni amendments tonight. And so I do want to also add to the context. So on May 20th, the board received a presentation from the National Park Service, the Minnesota Historical Society, and the Dakota community about the cultural significance of Minneapolis. And so having this information now public as public record, it was necessary that we brought policy. And so as a result, on June 3rd, there was a resolution. So Commissioner Garcia's resolution that was introduced in the Planning Committee. And I know that the resolution, I do want to explain the resolution, and I think that, Commissioner, I just want to explain that there has been thought put into this resolution. So this resolution directs the superintendent to initiate a process to decommissioning the Minnehaha off-leash recreation area. In this process, we will also seek other alternative sites for additional off-leash recreation opportunities. and for a process for community feedback on amenities and locations of those alternative sites. And so the decommissioning, what that means is that, again, no longer would canines would be off leash. They would have to be with a leash. And so in my eyes, I feel like that is a middle ground.
Please, everyone. Please.
So when the Minnesota Historical Society and the National Park Service came, they quoted, Minneapolis, it's a sacred area for Dakota and other tribes, and the nomination recognized its deep and ongoing significance to Dakota people. In the conversations that I have had these past weeks, as a commissioners, we are responsible to, yes, have conversations for our constituents, but in those conversations, I just can't express the amount of gaslighting that I have heard, and just sacred knowledge, and also just indigenous ways of living, just the amount of gaslight. And so I as a commissioner, I don't feel comfortable having our indigenous community who is coming to testify and describing, their stories, to be put in a conversation where they're gonna be gaslit. And so with this resolution, it is gonna open the opportunity for community to come and have a voice on what those alternative sites are, amenities. The decommissioning wouldn't happen until the December date, which allows community members to still have that space in the summer. And so again, it may seem that it has been a fast rush process, but
Without input.
Please, Erin.
and with the information that we had as commissioners, at least for me, it's important to bring policy forward that respects and acknowledges our Dakota community, right? I think that also
Thanks, Commissioner Carl-Frauenhammer. I'm sorry, I have to cut you off a little bit. Sorry. We'll have plenty more time to discuss. Commissioner Benny.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that, I would hope that not everyone's made up their mind about the amendment and really gives it some thought, because the point is to build consensus. We have to, especially in Minneapolis. We're a bunch of weirdos who live here who like consensus. We like to collaborate. We want to understand. We may still arrive at the same place. And I think also it was pointed out, and I think that's important. The fencing project, the reason that came up is because the land use was spilling off of the parkland, and that wasn't good. And so the point is not parkland. So some of what is the dog park in people's minds isn't actually legally the dog park. So we have to kind of get on the same page. We really, really do. And if we come to the point where we are making a decision, we have to find an alternative. I do believe this is a constituent group, the dog recreation people, I think, that need a space in our city. That said, I would also hope that if we allow the process to proceed, we deliberate. We let staff work with our Native American Parks Council, which I have a lot of trust in, and that we get to then hear reports back from staff about that work. That's not clandestine, okay? That's not in secret. We would actually hear, and I trust that work. One of the things that I've advocated for since we began our Indigenous Action Plan work in the last term is to talk about spaces where it's appropriate to have what I would call a cultural easement. I want to also maybe stop talking about spiritual, because I think that's too subjective. I think for many people that use this space in one way or another, it feels spiritual. We are a secular entity. This is a space in a beautiful, wonderful space. We need to, I think, respect the history of this space as well. I think we can come to an agreement, and we can find a way forward here, and I think we should try. So I think we should slow it down. This is not just, my amendment is not just a trick or a mechanism to break the process. I really think we need to work on this as a group and not be top-down, not top-down in this decision. So please support.
Thank you. All right. Vice President Deshpande. Please.
Thank you, President Olson, and thank you, Commissioner Benny, for bringing this amendment forward. You know, I'd like to do my research, and one thing I feel is that we haven't done a good job of communicating what we've learned, and partly it's because of, no, please don't applaud. I think it's partly because, you know, this has been spanning a few years now, and so it started with this fencing proposal, and the origins of that go to the National Park Service and the Minnesota Historical Society and their requests on us. And at the same time, as I've looked into some of this information further, I've also found out that the park board staff has been left out of a lot of these conversations. So we haven't had the ability as a board, or even from our own employees, to be included and understand some of the decisions or some of the information that's just being conveyed to us. And that doesn't make, I don't think that breeds trust. I don't think that's fair for the parks. I don't think it's fair for constituents. And so I do think more conversation is warranted. I will say, however, that I think we will come to the same end conclusion because a lot of the research I've done, and as this board knows, is focused on history. And the history of this space, from Coldwater up to the dog park, over to Hidden Falls on the St. Paul side, to Pilot Knob in Mendota Heights, the history is the same, decade after decade. And we've had a study from going back to at least 1971 indicating what that whole area, this whole area from the dog park to Mendota Heights to Pike Island to Fort Snelling means. And I think all of these entities that you see on this map, and also St. Paul, and also the city of Mendota Heights, and also the city of Mendota, have neglected that history. We've all collectively failed because of the complexity of multiple jurisdictions, and that's led to immense problems, even though we've had almost 60 years worth of history and information, at least just on the written record, not including what our indigenous relatives have already been telling us. So I do think we will end up in the same space, no matter what, the same resolution, same conclusion. But I'm willing to hear more because I think it's important for us as a city to be able to have this dialogue and come to those decisions jointly. So I will be supporting this amendment, but if it doesn't pass, no, please don't applause. If it doesn't pass, I will also be supporting the original amendment because, again, I think we're going to end up in the same space based on the research that I've done. Thank you.
Commissioner Forney.
Thank you, and I just want to tell everybody that our commissioner over here is a bene. So just for you all to know, I love to be able to do that and everything. And I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that you've put into this amendment. I apologize that I asked staff very short notice and everything. Some of the history of our establishment of our dog parks, just for you to know, there haven't been that many for very long. And it has been a conscientious effort for the past, I think, almost 2 decades now. And one of the places that it started was when there was a proposal to have a dog park at Martin Luther King Park. And we found the same type of cultural problems here. And that was an incredibly difficult time for the African American community. And so I feel we're in the same, shall we say, crossroads here. So if possibly staff can share anything about, that we do have dog parks in each district, maybe how do we come about some of those, anything that can be shared would be greatly appreciated. Deputy Secretary Ringel, I think, is the one who's going to try and do just a little bit of information.
Secretary Ringel, if you are prepared for that.
Thank you, President Olson and Commissioner Forney. I'm going to go pretty high level because I think this would be worthy of staff really laying out the history for the board and me not going off of just my memory at this moment. But you know, Minnehaha Dog Park actually was one of the early ones advocated for, and that became a dog park in the early 2000s, I want to say. And it was the responsible owners of Mannerly Pets who were part of the advocacy group who brought that forward. And then as we moved out of that, we started looking for a dog park within each park district. The one you're speaking about at Martin Luther King, or Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Park, that one, there really had not been a off-leash dog park in the 6th Park District. That is an area that had really eluded the process, and community was asking for us to find one, so we started looking at that location, and it really turned out to be not a great option. The community articulated that that would not be respectful to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It actually created a really strong community around that park, and a legacy council came out of that park, and a lot of, I think, really great work resulted from it. But it led us to doing yet more research. We had an advisory committee to find a dog park in the 6th Park District. There are very few spaces that aren't already used by another use within that district, and so it became a real struggle. And we ended up looking at the lower parking lot of our operations center as the final destination for that dog park. So I would anticipate, depending on how this resolution goes forward, staff would begin to craft what that process would look like for a dog park. I would assume in the 5th Park District might be some of the parameters that are set on that. Maybe the board would go wider than that. And you'd likely have some type of an advisory committee and staff-led process on that. If you've got specific questions, I can try to answer them, but to give you more history, I would really like to look through the records and provide dates and times and all of the good stuff.
Thank you for that short notice report that you gave, because I just, number one, want you all to know that we do take very seriously what your opinions are. My difficulty, though, with this amendment is that it's putting staff in a position of, I can't remember, excuse me, it was you, Jane, who mentioned, of maybe having to deal with a lot of virtue signaling. And I just really fear that it's putting them in a position that is inappropriate. And I agree with Vice President Responde. We're going to come to the same conclusion. But do know that any dog park that replaces this, we want your input. There is no doubt about that. So I just want you all to make sure that we are not trying to close off the doors, but we are trying to respect a community that definitely needs respect. So I will not be supporting this amendment.
Thank you. Okay, further discussion to the amendment, Vice President Deshpande.
I actually just had a question for our planning staff, or maybe for Deputy Superintendent Ringgold. When we, if you don't know the answer, this is fine, but when we choose to site a dog park, do we follow processes similar to what we see under the Department of Transportation Act 4F, or the National Environmental Protection Act, or the National Historical Protection Act Section 106 process, to understand that if we were to put a dog park or any other type of park asset onto a ecologically sensitive space, a historical space, are we following national processes, and did we do that with this dog park?
President Olson, Vice President Deshpande. I can't speak to the history of this particular dog park. It was before my time at the park board, but I will say that when planning staff in collaboration with community and with other park board staff across the organization, we're looking at a wide variety of factors. Yes, including historic resources that might exist, including conflicts with other uses, including environmental impacts, say the existence of wetlands, sometimes directs what we can and can't put somewhere. So there's a lot of factors that go into siting any of our assets. Strictly speaking, 4F doesn't necessarily come into play because we're citing a park asset in a park. But sometimes the historic, Chapter 106, Section 106, could come into play. I think that would potentially be the case for citing a dog park elsewhere in this park, because this park is a state historic site. Minnehaha Park is. So that could be a consideration. And then, of course, like wetland permitting requirements, I think would be another big thing that we'd have to be looking at. So it's a variety of factors, and I think we'd try to undertake a comprehensive process to look at all those and to also hear community voice and also hear input from other staff in the organization who are going to have to operate and maintain the dog park.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'll say a couple words on the amendment. Yeah, Commissioner Benny, I vacillated really all day on whether or not to support this, because I do see clearly the intention you're going for here. And, it comes from a place of, I believe, hearing and seeing the emotion and the significance and the meaning that this space has for so many people. I feel that. I've responded to some of you with pictures of my dog Perry, who learned to swim here. And it has a lot of meaning to me as well. And it did when I voted against the fence plan last year. And so I have had time since then to take in more information, to process this, to work through my sense of loss of the space. And, my favorite spot was, frankly, down, if you're looking at this map, down at the very tip of the yellow there, way past our land, which ends at the power lines. The power lines to me is like, the park doesn't even hardly begin there. And so, I would, as folks start to kind of work and adapt to the space in their head, that's what we're talking about. So the intention of this amendment is to, I believe, what I think I would be voting for if I were to vote for it, would be to giving time for folks to process this. That said, and that's valuable. That's certainly valuable, because this is a complex issue and it's a heartfelt issue. However, looking further at it, I think it's important, we want to hear from people. We are hearing from folks right now. And what this would do is it would kind of delay things until September, where we would have a plan. And then the plan would take another several months to implement. And then we, would be kind of reaching back out to the Dakota elders and folks that we've been listening to and the national park folks, and putting staff then in a position to say, no, we don't think this is feasible. When 2 meetings ago, we had experts come before us and tell us that, I'm sorry, but this off-leash park is not feasible. And so what I really want and what I hope and what I think, Commissioner Engelhardt is saying in this being additive is I think we can take this energy and we can move it towards finding, I think we can find a red space like this. I do think we can find somewhere on the river. I do think we can find maybe some water. If not, I think we can find an expansive wooded space within our park system. We do have plenty of space, and I know we can do that. And that's something that I'm going to be advocating incredibly hard for, because I understand that that's what folks go for. I mean, Perry, he does not get tired unless he swims. And I understand that a lot of you folks have dogs like that as well. And so I think, given that we're going in this similar, we probably end up in the same place. I don't want to mislead you. I don't want you to put energy towards, organizing and getting folks together and all this towards something that I think we're going to end up in a similar spot. So I will be voting against this amendment, but I seriously, with an open heart, let's work together to find an alternative, and let's work together to make sure that this space, even with leashed dogs, and beyond, is going to be an amazing cultural space and experience for all of us. Commissioner Engelhardt.
Yeah, thank you for those words, President Olson. I want to go on with that, is that let's put this energy into a net positive, more than one location. I mean, to be so passionate about these qualities of water that is not stagnant, that is moving. Yes, blue-green algae and other things will kill a dog and us as people. Elevation changes, wooded, spread out. it's the only dog park I would bring my dog to, because aggressive dogs just would go for her. So, you know, people were yelling, name them. There are several, there are many locations in district, and to have one that effectively requires driving is an accessibility problem and not in line with this board's priorities on climate by any means. So having more, I don't think it's very expensive to fence off a place and put in possibly some wood chips. I mean, what did I just name? I said water, moving water, elevation, wooded changes, open, right? Those are the main qualities. And if you want to engage in a productive way, let's do that. So I'll name some places what I was asked
Please,
to
everyone,
do.
we were doing very well there for a little bit.
Off in District 1, I think there's some multiple good locations that are wooded and have similar qualities. One of them on the river, when St. Anthony Parkway jogs west and goes up by the Camden Bridge. That's pretty much an unutilized space. It's on the river. Is that a feasible location? East River Flats. We could take stewardship of the Mac Park and improve that, the airport park. Solomon has been identified. Bassett Creek. Bassett Creek is another option in the southern end of Theodore Wirth Park. So those are some I've named. And I want us all to work to focus the energy on multiple opportunities we have and turn this into an opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion to the amendment? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of the Benny amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
With that, the amendment does not pass. On to the resolution as a whole. Commissioners, discussion to the resolution as a whole. Commissioner Rucker.
Yeah, I just want to, my question is, okay, you know, I know the definition of decommission, but I want to hear, are they going to still, the constituents going to still be able to bring their dogs down on a leash?
Yes, Commissioner Rucker, that is the plan at the moment, and yeah.
What's the difference? Off-leash or on-leash? What's the difference?
The difference is that's the compromise at this moment.
Give the full plan first, and then say this is what it's gonna be, and then this is where we stand, this is what this means. You don't have a formal meaning for it. That's the issue, is that we're all confused on, is our dogs gonna be allowed on a leash? What's the difference between on-leash and off-leash in terms of respect to the Dakota? It's all of those things.
Explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear your questions. We all hear your questions, and in fact, within the resolution, a lot of those questions are ones that, I share your questions, which is why within the resolution there is going to be significant community engagement directed by staff for alternatives, for understanding how we can move forward with this space. I'm continuing to take Commissioner Rucker's time, so I won't go any further.
Well, no, that was what my question was.
Okay.
Are they still going to be able to bring their dogs down on leash? That's my question.
No, by Dakota when we asked them. They said that that was part of the longer term plan, no dogs at all, disrespectful.
And I'm going to try to not, we will have times to sit down with you and talk in a better way. A lot of what this does is it creates kind of like one-sidedness, and what I'm doing right now is really, I shouldn't be doing it. But we are going to be having those discussions as the resolution is written right now. A leashed dog will be allowed. That said, by the end of this, in future planning for the space, as we have a community engagement plan for what to do, it could come that even in the future, no dogs would be allowed on a leash. And so this is just an interim thing. And so I'm just giving you all the possibilities. Commissioner Engelhardt.
Now that we're moving on to the original resolution passed out of planning, I believe we will have the votes to pass this, and I hope that we do. This is the least we can do in relation to the generational and legacy trauma, has been spoken to plenty throughout tonight. We had we didn't need an amendment, as I spoke to engage further and help people understand. I believe it is our duty as the electeds. It is not the duty of and, you know, maybe people can learn to be a little bit more respectful of all of our relatives here and all of our community along the way. Work with us, work toward, I hope that there is a net gain, as I named some places. That's only some that I've, you know, thought about myself. So looking at a holistic look of everything and everything that's possible, let's do that. On January 28th, we had an open meeting out there that was more engaging, and that was around the topic of the federal occupation, because it was obvious we needed something and we needed more dialogue different than these standard meetings we have. So I'm very open to having that. I'm also very glad to my constituents in District 1 for being extremely respectful and understanding this. Everyone I've engaged with that has identified themselves as a District 1 constituent has been fantastic in understanding, and some of them came from similar places to some people have and figured out how to be fantastic and understanding. So let's engage and let's try to make this a net gain, and this is the absolute least we can do, kind of the weakest version of land back. It's gonna stay open as a park. As of now, dogs can be there on leash. And to be clear, the difference is when you're there, no matter who you are and what level of reflection or spiritual or whatever the word is, to have someone else's dog run up on you is disrespectful to what's going on in that land. And that massive amount of death happened there. We know that, and trauma, period. So let's just be respectful today.
Thank you, Commissioner Engelhardt. Commissioner Benny.
I'll be brief. I cannot.
Because it looks like you guys only have jurisdiction over one section. What are the other areas mean? Like the other parts of the beach that we
So-
also walk on? What is that?
So, I can't answer that question, but I can say that I cannot support this resolution because of questions like that. There's too much uncertainty about any of this. I don't think any of us even really understand it. So I'm not gonna support the resolution. I know we'll have other decisions to make coming up. And those will be based on more information, but this is putting the cart before the horse, so I'm not gonna be able to support it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Benny. Further discussion? Secretary Ringgold, perhaps to that question.
Thank you, President Olson. So I've had a couple of staff and I believe legal counsel. We just want to make sure we understand one thing before this goes to vote. The way this is most commonly being read right now is that the plan has to be in place by December 31st, so that we would be bringing forward a plan by December 31st, but that the decommissioning would need to happen prior to establishing a new long-term plan for Minnehaha Park. I've heard some different kind of ideas that maybe the plan would be here in a couple of months and the decommissioning would be by the end of the year. I just want to make sure that it's the plan that would have to be completed by the 31st and decommissioning before the long-range plan is complete. Is that correct?
Alternate space with the plan.
Is that, are we reading it correctly that the plan would be in place by December 31st, but it wouldn't necessarily be decommissioned by that point?
I would look to the resolution authors.
President Olson.
Commissioner Garcia.
President Olson, Secretary Ringgold. The way that the plan was written in collaboration was to direct that the off-leash dog park be decommissioned by December 31st, and that the plan would be presented at the earliest possible the earliest possible date.
Thank you for that clarification.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Councilor Rice.
I mean, if I could, on the question, I have talked to the secretary about this. There's two resolved paragraphs, and so I'd ask the commission, park commissioners to focus on that. As I read the first resolved question, by passing this resolution, if you pass it tonight, it will say that the Board of Commissioners directs development of a plan to decommission the existing off-leash recreation area at Minnehaha Regional Park, Mini OSC, traditional cultural place at the earliest practical date, but not later than December 31, 2026. So as I understand it, and maybe this doesn't comport with the author's intent, or maybe it does, was that and I take this as a direction to the superintendent, that he and his staff develop a plan to decommission that off-leash recreation area, and that plan has to be done by the end of the year. And it should be the earliest practicable date, but no later than December 31st. And with such plan for decommissioning being in place prior to the establishment of a new long-term plan for Minnehaha Regional Park. What I understand talking to Assistant Superintendent Schroeder is, we are in the process now of coming up with a long-term plan for Minnehaha Regional Park, which may take, it'll take longer than December 31st, but in any event, as I understand the sequencing, the plan has to be in place by the end of the year, and that the actual decommissioning has to take place prior to the establishment of the new long-term plan for the regional park, which could take up to a year and a half or even more. That's how I read the first result.
You know, and Councilor Rice, thank you for that. But I have also, you know, I've looked at it and I've heard, you know, from staff and also the resolution author, that the intent is to decommission by the end of the year. And I can see how that can be read that way as well with the current language. You know, so that the Board of Commissioners directs development of a plan to decommission the existing off-leash recreation area. So develop the plan at the earliest, so to decommission it at the earliest practical date. So the plan does not have a date. The decommissioning has the date. I don't know if there's like a comma we need to put somewhere, or if stating the intent is what's important, but in the conversations that I've been having with staff and the resolution author, and the intent and the communications we've been having with constituents, it's that way. So I don't know if it's your advice that we, you know, we can try to reword it on the fly, but Commissioner Garcia, I don't know, further to your discussions of the resolution there. Is stating intent enough? Because I've been reading it as not what you have interpreted. I mean, it's you know, it's semantics at this point, right? The intent is.
Then what I would suggest, if that, to be clear, I would suggest that if that is the intent of the resolution, that the words development of a plan to decommission be deleted, and that the sentence then reads that the Board of Park Commissioners directs the decommissioning of
The existing off-leash recreation.
Decommissioning of the existing, so replace the words development of a plan to decommission and replace it with the decommissioning of.
Okay.
If that's the intent.
President Olson, Council Rice, thank you for that suggestion. The reason that I chose this wording was after discussion with planning staff. The request was for them to be able to develop a plan for the decommissioning, and they thought that this language gave extra flexibility around that.
So it should.
I am open to a friendly amendment for clarity.
So it should say something, you know, closer to, you know, that the Board of Commissioners directs development of a plan to decommission the existing of the off-leash recreation area at the earliest possible date. And then it should be maybe a semicolon, and it should say that plan shall direct the decommissioning of the recreation area no later than December 31st, 2026, with such a, and it maybe not instead of with such a plan for, it should say, and it shall be in place prior to establishment of a new long-term plan for Minnehaha Regional Park. So that way, planning staff will be able to develop a plan, present it to us and the public, and we can have further discussion about what's going on, what that will look like, the leash, the not leash, future development, and then the second resolved has more of the future stuff of finding alternate sites and all this. So I believe that gets us to the intent. We still have a plan that we can share with the public, and that's a touch point for you. And it still directs us towards the end of the year, so we are moving on, a good timeline that is in recognition of the importance of the space. Councilor Rice.
Okay, so let me try this again. And if that's the intent, Mr. President, I'd suggest that after you get to the word "but" in the third line, add the word "implementation will occur."
Yes.
Not later than.
Yep.
Can you guys even do this under your own rules right now?
Yes, the board can.
How? Under what?
The board has the rules and the authority to govern its land, and they can take an amendment. They can take an amendment with a 2/3 vote. The rules allow an amendment to be offered by 2/3 vote.
And to be clear, the intent of the policy isn't changing at all. We're just working on some work.
Us to care about intent, Like, you can't just change on the fly without following your own rules.
The board is following its own rules.
Yeah.
Under what rule?
Robert's Rules of Order.
You have your own committee board.
I'm not, Mr. President, that.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Rice. We know we're within our means here, and I appreciate folks bearing with us. So, Secretary Ringgold, do you think you were able to get a conclusive, friendly amendment there that is?
President Olson, I believe what I understand is it's, but implement by December 31st, 2026, striking no later than. But implement by December 31st, 2026.
Yes. Yep. And then with such a plan for decommissioning being in place, yeah. I mean, we could wordsmith a little more after the 2026, that's almost redundant at that point because it would be before, but I think it's important to have in there. So I think that maintains the intent. Commissioner Garcia, do you feel good about that?
Yes.
Okay, so Commissioner Garcia accepts that as a friendly amendment. Councilor Rice, formally,
Well, I think at
do
this
we
point
have to vote?
You require under Roberts a 2/3 vote to accept the amendment. You essentially are suspending the rules for the purposes of considering the amendment that Commissioner Garcia would like considered.
Okay. Commissioner Engelhardt, to the proposed amendment.
Yes, I would like it in a way that I can read it in its entirety.
Okay.
Should we do a motion to suspend the rules? Is that what you're asking?
I can't vote on that.
I think Councilor Rice stated that it's not necessary. It's just if we get a 2/3.
Well, let me say this. First, I think that we should get clarity on what the amendment is. I think that's what Commissioner Engelhardt is asking. If we can get clarity on what the amendment is, then the correct procedural motion would be to suspend the rules of the board for the purpose of considering the amendment. And then if that suspension takes place, which will require 2/3 vote, then the amendment is properly before the board and can be considered.
Okay.
Point of order, is it possible maybe to have this typed up so that all of us can see it?
Yes, that is what I'm asking.
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess I would say maybe we should move to.
Yep.
Oh,
I think
sorry.
it's coming up.
Okay.
less visible than I'd like it to be. So 1 second. So that is that first resolved clause with the edit that I understand.
I think it would maybe read better if we get rid of the but as well, and then it says to be implemented.
Mr. President, I would say the word should be with implementation to occur.
Okay. Okay. Well, it should say to occur by no later. To stick with the full
Okay.
intention and initially.
Or not later than.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by no later, yep. Okay. Commissioners? Okay. I would like to move to suspend the rules to take a vote to amend the resolution as such. Secretary Ringgold, when you are prepared, please call the roll.
Commissioner Benny?
May I abstain?
Yes.
Yep. Commissioner Carbajal Moran?
Aye.
Commissioner Engelhardt?
Aye.
Commissioner Forney?
Aye.
Commissioner Frederick?
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia?
Aye.
Commissioner Rucker?
Aye.
Vice President Deshpande?
Aye.
President Olson?
Aye.
You have 8 ayes, 1 abstention.
Fantastic. The rules are suspended. Now we have another vote to vote on the amendment. The amendment is a straight up and down vote.
Correct.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Mr. Chair, I think I'd ask the author, Commissioner Garcia, if he'd read the amendment in the record.
Yes, Commissioner Garcia, if you would please read the amendment to your resolution.
Absolutely, thank you. Resolved that the Board of Commissioners directs development of a plan to decommission the existing off-leash recreation area at Minnehaha Regional Park in the Minneapolis Traditional Cultural Place at the earliest practicable date, with implementation to occur by no later than December 31st, 2026, with such a plan for decommissioning being in place prior to establishment of a new long-term plan for Minnehaha Regional Park.
Fantastic. I will
Do you need a second? Second.
All right, seconded. Any discussion? I believe we've had plenty. All those in favor of this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? With that, the resolution is amended. On to discussion to the resolution as amended. I believe, Commissioner Garcia, you had your light up. I don't know if you still would like to. Okay, Commissioner Garcia.
Yes, thank you, President Olson. I did just want to say a few words about the resolution. This was definitely not something that I took lightly. After having heard the presentations that were given in our May 20th meeting, coupled with my prior understanding of the area as a culturally important site, the ways that my Dakota relatives have told me about this site, and the ways that we know our history of the area and how it came to become a park and then a dog park. I also took very seriously the words of Juanita Espinosa and Maggie Lorenz, who have spoken quite eloquently and thoughtfully about this, and understanding the importance of acknowledging and hearing the words of Native elders and knowledge keepers. It made it very clear that we needed to take some action. when I considered the ranges of actions that were available, on one side was status quo, not doing anything. On the other side was removing the area as accessible for dogs completely, which I did not find appealing or perhaps necessary. I did a lot of research looking at other indigenous sacred sites and monuments and things like that. And I found none that allowed off-leash dog recreation in their grounds. There are many that do ban pets entirely, but there are also some, such as Pipestone National Monument here in Minnesota, that allow dogs as long as they're leashed. So I used that as a guideline when I was writing this resolution. And I certainly understand that this is a change that is not pleasant for a lot of people. But at the same time, as has been spoken to many times this evening, this is about rectifying an ongoing harm. And the longer that we put off that addressing of harm, the more that it causes harm to people who have often had the least amount of voice and say in what goes on here on their ancestral lands. So I just want to be clear that that's why I wrote this resolution and why I looked at setting up a time frame to allow our planning staff to build a plan, to be able to find alternate locations and place them as priorities, as well as honoring the requests of our Dakota people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Yeah, I'll say, I think I have a few more words on this. And thank you everyone for, bearing with us there. It's, I do appreciate it. So, I think what we will see is, alternatives will, finding those and getting those and implementing those will take longer than through the end of the year. So that will be an ongoing process where we will continue to be engaging you. And so as you take the time between now and when off-leash is officially disallowed within the park, sit with, what is special about the park and what you like and what you'd like to see, and, potential other areas within the city that we could be proactive and engaging and finding that and advocating for that space. I think what you've shown here is that there is a really special need for what this space offers. It just happens to be incompatible with something that we have, it's new to me, it's not new to a lot of folks, but it's new to me. And I know it's new to a lot of you. But some of the principle that why I am going to be supporting this and why, in fact, I'm excited for the future of this space is, an understanding that in America, diversity of culture and diversity of experience and diversity of space and how space is used and treated and land is treated is our strength. It is something that is fundamental to our nation. And frankly, within our city limits, I do not believe that we have a public park space that embraces and elevates and allows someone like me to connect in an authentic way with Dakota culture and Dakota history and Dakota space. And what I think that the future of this park will be able to bring for us is a place where we will still be able to go and walk along the land and walk up to that river and that beautiful sand and find mussel shells in the beach, and we will be able to connect with it in a very similar way that you all have in the last 30 years. That will take some time. That'll take effort from us and from you and participation, and that's what this resolution directs, and it's very explicit about that. And so I want to thank you all for coming, for expressing your opinions and the importance of this to you. What I am looking at it as is it reflects on just how important our Minneapolis parks are and how it brings us together and how we create spaces that are life-changing. We create little bits of heaven that all of us get to enjoy and embrace. Now, this is not the end. Well, it is the end. It's the end of a chapter, but it's the continuation of the novel we're building together, and I do believe we will have a positive future together. With that, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of Resolution 2026-114, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And with that, Resolution 2026-114 is approved. We will now return to our discussion item on property tax. I encourage folks to stay. This is how we fund your wonderful dog parks, and we will need your help advocating at the city level to get what we need to continue our wonderful park system.
All right, good evening, President Olson and commissioners. I'm Julie Wiseman, the finance director. I forgot to say that the first time around. And also want to say that this information, as well as all the budget development information, is located on our public website at www.minneapolisparks.org/budget. So I'm taking this opportunity to discuss with the board your first official action that you need to take during every budget development process annually. So the maximum property tax levy. Why do we have to do this now? Sometimes it seems counterintuitive that the first action you have to make is to decide on a property tax levy when you haven't developed the full budget. So the Board of Estimate and Taxation, as required by state law, they set the maximum property tax levy for the City of Minneapolis, the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, the Municipal Building Commission, and the Public Housing Authority. By state law, this board has to set that maximum before September 30th of each year. So on this slide, that's step 3. So we have to back up from September 30 to have this body request what this body wants for a maximum tax levy. That is step 1. The Board of Estimate and Taxation holds a public hearing each year for citizens to obtain or to have input regarding the setting of that maximum levy. So if we look at our key budget calendar dates for this development of the 2027 and 28 budget, this board needs to approve the maximum tax levy. It will go to the Administration and Finance Committee on July 1st, and it will be approved by the full board on July 15th. The Park Board staff will go to the BET on July 22nd and provide a current service level presentation to the board. So it'll be similar information to what you all have been receiving during our Committee of the Whole meetings. The mayor will recommend a budget on August 15th. Included in the mayor's recommended budget will be the mayor's request for a park board maximum tax levy as built into the full city tax. So the mayor will be recommending what he and the city staff feel should be our maximum levy. The superintendent's recommended budget will be presented on August 19th. It will be developed based on the maximum property tax levy that you set back in July. And so it allows staff and the superintendent time to produce and develop the superintendent's recommended budget. We're doing in previous budget years, the superintendent's recommended budget was not presented until October. We would wait for the mayor's recommended budget. We would wait for the BET to set the maximum property tax levy, and then we would create the budget. It puts us at a disadvantage doing it that way because the BET then is determining what our maximum levy should be without being fully knowledgeable about what would be funded with that maximum tax levy. So the BET holds a public hearing on September 10th. We will be presenting at that September 10th public hearing, presenting the superintendent's recommended budget and our maximum property tax levy request. And then on September 3rd, the BET will adopt the maximum levy. And the process of that budget or that adoption of the maximum levy is that the superintendent's recommended tax levy is what the resolution is based on. And so if our maximum request is different than the mayor's, our park board member on the BET or one of the other members on the BET have to offer an amendment and have that amendment passed, and ultimately the resolution for the maximum tax levy passed. And again, the board is made up of 6 members, 3, the mayor, 2 city council members, 2 elected officials, and a park board member. So in order to get our amendment passed and ultimately the resolution passed, we have to have 4 votes to move that forward. So this point in the process, what are the property tax considerations? We need to think about financial sustainability. What is needed to maintain current service levels? We've talked a lot about current workers' wages and fringe increases. There's inflationary impacts on operating costs, utilities, materials, and contracts. And then we have new parks and new park amenities that if we don't consider their service levels and increase, it would impact service levels citywide if we're not able to support these new parks and new amenities. You also need to talk or think about your strategic priorities. Alignment with adopted comprehensive plans, strategic plans, performance goals, and community priorities. You also need to consider equity in the conversation. And I think what is the hardest for a first year of your tenure as commissioners, this group, is that you're just starting to adopt your strategic plans and performance goals, developing them, considering them, and adopting them. And so I understand that this seems rushed and it seems too soon, but just know that the superintendent and staff are hearing what you're wanting to see in the 27-28 budget, and we will do our best to reflect that in the 27 and 28 budget. You may not get what you exactly want in 2027, but you have another bite at it in 2028. And of course, we heard from the assessors. We've heard this for the last several years. You've seen it in the press quite a bit lately, that taxpayer impact should be considered. The impact on homeowners, renters, small businesses. The estimated dollar increase on a typical property tax bill, and then current economic conditions and taxpayers' ability to absorb additional costs. The other thing that I will say now, and probably again in a further slide, what you set as your maximum tax levy does not mean that that's what you will adopt come December 31st. So you can't go over it, but you can go under it. So if you are uncomfortable with the percentage that we have recommended for a maximum tax levy, know that you're going to have time within this 27-28 budget process to consider further cuts, consider further increases in revenue, other things that may be able to be utilized in order to bring the maximum tax levy down. But again, you can't go up. So where are our 6-year financial projections at today? Again, this is a living document. It continually is modified as information is gained, and you'll see that once again reflected. So for 2027, we're sitting at a 5.86% increase for 2027. That now is the third number that you have seen, because things continue to change. And on this chart, I'll flip back here and then I'll come back. The things that have changed is that now that you are close to passing, or Secretary Ringgold, did they pass the performance goals yet?
We will be doing that shortly after this.
Okay, so you'll see that second bullet for other revenue increase. I have built in strategic direction D, the performance goal around increasing revenue in the general fund. And so that is being reflected in our 6-year projections for those 4 years. The other change is that we have met with city staff and the mayor, and were informed that our health insurance increase for 2027 is now estimated at 10% rather than 5%. And then Minnesota paid leave. Again, this was our first year experiencing Minnesota paid leave, and the city is self-insuring for that paid leave, which is, or not self-assuring, we're administering it, but we're needing to increase that by 25%. So those are the changes. So you'll see that our fees, fines, and other revenue line now is increasing the next 4 years. I didn't project in an increase for 2031 and 2032 at this point, because the farther out you go, the less accurate those are. And again, I am a finance person, so revenue to me is conservatively budgeted. You want to be able to make sure you can meet your revenue goals. So I do want to spend a little bit of time on our operating costs, workforce activation, and other operating costs associated with our system equity investment. So this is the new parks, this is the new parks and the new amenities. And we have $1 million built into 2027 for athletic fields, North Commons, the Southwest Light Rail Stop, Sumner Field, and Upper Harbor Park. And I wanted to be very transparent to this body. What is this funding position-wise? So this is just 2027, and it's both part-time and full-time FTEs. So in total, we are requesting almost 19 FTEs between full-time and part-time. And the largest component of this is North Commons Park. And again, it's an expansion of North Commons Park to a 40,000 square foot building. Maybe I got that. Anyway, it's a very, very large facility. It will be open 7 days a week. It will be open 12 hours a day. And so there was already a budget for North Commons Park, the way it operated in the past. This complement of FTEs is in addition to what is already budgeted. And so you'll see that on this chart, the green is environmental stewardship positions, the orange is recreation positions, the blue is park police positions, and the yellow is community connections and violence prevention positions.
Sorry, Julie, I think I missed it. So these FTEs would be in addition to the 5.86%?
No.
No.
These FTEs are built into the 5.86%.
Okay.
These are included. All right. So our property tax summary. This chart has changed slightly from what we saw before. So the top of this chart is what the city is currently recommending for us at the 2.34%. We are now requesting 5.86%. And the change is with the provision for wage adjustment and the changes in the provision for wage adjustments. And then I wanted to reflect for the first time our increase in other revenue. So in 2027, with 852,000, almost 853,000 increase in revenue, that allows us to decrease our property tax levy request by almost a full percentage. And so I want us to be able to get credit for that as we move this forward into other conversations. So right now, if the mayor's recommendation stayed at the 2.34%, we are requesting $5.5 million. The current city projections show us at 2.2 million. We would have a $3.3 million gap. So with the superintendent's recommended budget coming out in August, if the maximum tax levy really landed at the 2.34%, staff would be working with you to prepare budget amendments that would cut $3.3 million from our budget. The final slide I wanted to show you is that the board has requested us to consider a labor relations component to the 2027-28 budget. I'm bringing this up now because boards in the past have identified items like this and have made the decision to include it in their maximum tax levy and to move it forward in the process now rather than later. If you chose to do that, we budget 98% property taxes, so that's why at the bottom of this chart it says 247,000 rather than 242,000, because I have to inflate it to 100% in order for us to get to 42, if that makes, hopefully I made sense in that comment. But it's an additional 0.26%, and the maximum tax levy request then would be 6.12% rather than the 5.86%.
Would it be an option for us to say, take these two positions and keep us at 5.86, but just find a way to remove from the system equity investment positions this amount? So we're staying at 5.86, we're, adding new staff, new FTEs.
President Olson and commissioners, in order to do that, you'd be impacting service level of the new park assets and the new amenities. So my personal recommendation as the finance director is, if you're not comfortable going above the 5.86%, you leave. Right now this is showing as a budget request, and it can be a budget request that is weighed during the budget process, and you allow staff to come forward with what they would cut in order to make this happen, rather than making those decisions now.
Okay. Thanks.
So with that, I am open to questions.
Well, okay. Questions, discussions. Sorry, I could have, if I had a little more patience. Well, and so to continue on that thread of thought, the thinking is, yes, it would impact service level at the new spaces. Maybe a part of a philosophy I'm toying with is those new spaces don't yet have users necessarily creating patterns through them, so it's possible, to delay that a little longer, whereas these new positions are affecting our entire system now. So just a thought of, when I see new FTs, I think it's kind of all coming from the same pie. So that was just some of my logic there. I understand maybe a bit of a process of switching that up for y'all and going for the larger FTE portion there. The reason I'm asking about doing it now and saying at 5.86 is just the conversations I've been having. And, I reached out to staff about this. Austerity is on the mind. I mean, there's just an article or maybe it was in a newsletter I saw. St. Paul has to trim a lot. We have to trim a lot, like 30 or 40 million. The mayor's going to be looking for it from all over the place. I know, it's not a result of mismanagement on our side, but we're going to have to be forming really strong arguments to my fellow BET members. I appreciated early in the slide you gave a ways ago some kind of strong budget practices that we have. I hope to continue to have potentially some talking points for us that we can bring to our BET friends that if we have personal connections with, or they are in our districts, or what have you, that we can work with. But yes, so thank you for this. I think, President Benny, or former President Benny, and BET rep Benny formerly, the current BET members did express that, you did a fantastic job for us in past years. And, it was, your discussions with them and other board members' discussions with them early on about what we need, what we're looking for, what it's for, and why the park board is a good investment of public dollars that allowed us to, get something that would have been otherwise a very aggressive mayoral cut. So I hope to fill your large shoes there, but I do know as well, working with our BET allies will be a team effort. So I will end my ramble there. Commissioners, further discussion. Vice President Deshpande.
Thank you, President Olson. So I had a number of different questions. The first is just related to what President Olson was just saying around the 5.86 that staff has presented versus the 2.34% that the city is recommending. Politically, what does that look like in past history? And maybe Council Rice or Commissioner Benny can offer. If we come in more than twice what the city is recommending, are we sending an early signal saying this is what we want, or are we saying, like, sending a signal that we're being unrealistic?
Commissioner Benny, Council Rice. Commissioner Benny.
Yes, thank you. Through the president, I would say that that I think that the most one of the more compelling things that I think that the BET finds compelling would be things around wages for sure, staffing levels, maintaining existing staffing levels, and I think they understand the idea of growth of the park system, which I think everyone supports. That needs people. I would say that doesn't land as impactfully with the mayor, to be perfectly candid, because I think it's a numbers analysis, not a practical one. And so I do think one of the things that's good is showing, and the staff will do a great job of that, showing how that almost $900,000 in additional revenue has materialized, which is not being spent on fancy new junk. It's being used to offset the property tax request. If we could get more things like that, I think that would be good. So that's what I can say. Connecting to city council, but particularly the BET members, and especially the electeds, is a good thing to do.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Benny. Secretary Ringgold, I believe this is turning to you on the same theme here.
Yep, thank you, President Olson and Vice President Deshpande. One thing I do want to highlight is that we have been pretty consistent with the mayor's office about what we felt we needed for this year, actually for 27 and 28. So this isn't a surprise. I think what the Director Wiseman has already shown is a decrease from what we would have shown in terms of the numbers that the mayor saw already. And that decrease included accounting for an increase in health care that we weren't anticipating, as well as an increase in the amount that we'd be paying for the new Minnesota paid leave. So despite the fact that that conversation with the mayor's office resulted in us recognizing we would actually have higher costs, Julie's coming forward with a lower percentage based on rethinking how much revenue we might be able to earn in this time frame. So it still is twice as much as where the mayor's at, but it's not new numbers, and if the numbers are new, they're actually lower than they were before.
And Council Rice.
A very good, Mr. President, very good question, Vice President Deshpande. Just historically, what I've observed is that the city council and the mayor, or in the process, it's always an uphill fight for the park board to get to the same level that the city has. Just frankly, it is. Over time, I think Ms. Wiseman has done a good job in documenting that. I think she's shown you some charts before, but you get all these numbers, and the advantage I have is I've seen them for a number of years where you're seeing it for the first time. So the pattern has been it's always pushing the rock up the hill with the city. I think what the staff has done as it's evolved over time, particularly with Ms. Wiseman, the drilling down to the micro level of saying you're going to get 5 full-time FTEs, and they're going to be in these parks in this area, or as Secretary Ringgold said, we have a 25% in paid family leave, or the health insurance is going up. It's that level of granular detail going in, and quite frankly, you all as commissioners understanding it, being able to translate that to the mayor and also your fellow, your council members. So it's not just, oh, we want 6%. Well, what do you want it for? We want 6 because it sounded like a good number. No, you build it up, kind of area by area. And so it's not just, and I think that's kind of been in my view, sometimes getting involved, but more frequently being an observer or counseling with, Ms. Wiseman or the superintendent or the secretary. That's what's worked, is been able to say, no, this is the need, this is the ask. We're not just asking for 6% because you're getting 6% or because it sounded like a good number or inflation is up. It's actually, this is what you're buying. And I think going forward from here, it really is important that each of the commissioners understand that, what the ask is, why it is, and if you're talking to the council members or the mayor or the BET members, they really get, okay, this is what we're buying.
Thanks, Mr. Bendick.
Thank you. That's all good detail. So my second question is just around the timing, and also what's the difference between, right now you're proposing 5.86% for roughly 19 FTE. What's the difference between that and the superintendent's recommended budget on August 19th?
President Olson and Vice President Deshpande. The superintendent's recommended budget, we are in the budget development cycle of the budget process. So all of our departments have submitted their budget requests for 2027 and 2028. And the superintendent goes through all of those requests, and the executive team, they're all presented to the executive team. They meet and discuss and confer about which requests they will approve to include in the budget, and then what reductions or further increases in revenue are needed in order to get to a balanced budget. And so that's the part of the process where we start to talk about the commissioner's priorities and where those gaps in the budget are, and how much can we implement and adjust for through service level, or not service level reductions, but budget reductions other places in order to fund and shift the budget towards the direction that this board has communicated.
Okay, it just feels very convoluted. So we're getting a piece of the puzzle now and are expected to make a declaration. We'll get a fuller picture come August 19th. And so I think to me and to the general public, it doesn't make logical sense. And I understand that this is state law and the procedure, but it doesn't lend itself to easy arguments or even complete data that we can go and present to the public to make our case, or to members of the BET or the mayor or the city council. That's just my own commentary. The last question I have is around, this is also a political question maybe, is we see that our commercial property downtown is in free fall. And so that suggests that the city is not in a healthy state right now. But at the same time, homeowner property values are increasing, which seems contradictory. How can we have a downtown that's decaying, but everybody's homes are suddenly worth more? Is that a commentary that anybody has seen or experienced before?
To macroeconomics of the Twin Cities metro area.
Yeah, President Olson, Vice President Deshpande, I can't think of a time when it's been that way, but,
Yeah, I mean, if I could, there was kind of a depression or slowing down of the commercial markets in the early 80s. There was the so-called Reagan recession kind of hit businesses and the economy contracted, but I don't think there's ever been anything quite like this, and where commercial value has lost property. And actually, at one point in time, commercial property was taxed at almost 4 or 5% of value, and a lot of the property tax burden was borne by the business entities. And so in Minneapolis in the 80s and 90s, the downtown core paid a huge amount of taxes. I mean, they really funded city operations, and homeowners were able to have a fair amount of relief, and we've seen a huge change in that. And so the business lobby, when the economy roared back and they were paying a lot of taxes, they actually lowered the commercial rate from about 4.5% down to 3%, where it's now at. And now with the valuations dropping, even though it's still at 3%, the values have dropped so much, the taxes have disappeared, and that's put a lot more pressure on homeowners. And so what I would say is decreasing values of business with increasing values of homeowner property is, we're in a new era. And that's going to mean the homeowners are going to pay, relatively speaking, a lot more than they ever have historically.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a fascinating consequence of COVID, of over-reliance on suburban commuters and building a city around people that aren't your residents. It's a lot of things. Commissioner Forney.
Thank you, Director Reisman. I always find these so insightful. As far as the city services, the slide that you presented and everything, it's always a shockarooty to me. Are we seeing a lot of differences from other years? I guess is, what I'm not aware of. The nickel diming that's literally happening.
President Olson, Commissioner Forney, in this in this adjustment from the city for 2027, it equates to a 3.44% increase, which is more of an inflationary type of increase. We have received very large increases in the past, and I didn't put that chart on this slide, but last year we received an increase of over 9%, and it started at 36%. They did a new allocation model, and we're trying to allocate a lot of services to us that we don't even use, and so it took a lot of negotiating with the city to get it into a more manageable way. And I don't necessarily agree with all of what they've allocated to us to date, but this is where we've landed with this fee.
I mean, I guess the thing that just I find so bothersome is like we're getting charged by them, but it's like, what are we charging them? Yeah, anyway, and I just feel that's where we really need to have something assertive, a sales tax, whatever it might be. I don't know what it looks like, but we're providing a service to the city. And I'm sorry, I woke up at 3:20 this morning, so I haven't processed totally the Greater and Greener Conference, but I'm hoping that the commissioners and staff who did go to it and everything, there was an amazing forum of mayors. Was that yesterday? Yes, it was. And wow, talk about cheerleaders. Wow, parks are the greatest thing in the entire world. And I just feel like, what are the nuggets that were in that conversation is really what we need to be conveying, not just to the mayor, but to the other BET members. I want to remind people that as far as the values of properties going up, the biggest place where the values of properties are going up are actually in the lower valued homes. And that is, to me, always very disconcerting. They're carrying the load more than, I have to say, the higher valued homes. So any way that we can come up with chargebacks to them, because I do feel that we have definitely, we're providing an amazing service, and we need to quantify that in some way. And that's why I'm saying that if there's something out of that mayor's forum that we can take to do a dog and pony show or something like that to the BET members is significant. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay, further discussion? Yeah, I will just chime in on the services. I always just find it a little, ironic. I mean, not so much to go down the same path as Commissioner Forney of us charging them. I mean, it's, we're charging each other, and we're just both taxing the citizens and civilians of Minneapolis. It's just like, you could just add it to your, I don't know, maybe there's some logic behind it, but it seems completely inane to me. So as we think of the, I just ask commissioners as we move forward. So I think the real kind of crux of what we're thinking of moving forward is whether we do the 5.8 whatever percent, or we add that additional 1%, or maybe my seemingly ignorant idea of taking that 1 point whatever percent and taking that from the those service level FTEs, if we find that those are valuable enough to be doing that at this point in the process, which maybe not. Commissioner Frederick.
Thank you, President Olson. I'll be brief. Thank you, Director Wiseman, for your presentation. As a freshman commissioner, this is extremely valuable and well put together, so it's digestible information to help explain, not just to us, but I think to be transparent with citizens if and potentially, when taxes do increase, to know where and how that money is being spent is such an essential practice of good governance. So I just want to say thank you for all the work that you and your department have done to put together this presentation, and I will be spending more time with it just to ensure that I do have a really in-depth understanding of where we move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
All right, before we go on to petitions and communications, I nearly forgot. I am going to appoint the full board to admin and finance so that we can all comment on and vote on the draft goals. So we'll all be sitting on that and being able to vote on that. That is hereby proclaimed. I'm told that I can just do that. So, okay, and we are done here, except for petitions and communications. Commissioner Benny, let's start on your side.
I will pass.
Commissioner Garcia.
Pass.
Commissioner Forney.
Like I said, I attended the Greater and Greener. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of things, besides seeing a scorpion with tons of babies all over its back to report in on. But it's always such a marvelous experience. How important connectivity is, the importance of climate resiliency, water access, seeing a wasteland, a landfill completely remediated and its biodiversity. Anyway, it's just amazing. Probably the best thing, though, was the conversation that we had with the framers, I'll say, of the Trust for Public Lands matrix for their park score about equity. And I'm going to be anxious to see how that evolves and how it impacts everything that we do in the park system. So that was probably the most powerful conversation, and like I say, they will be reporting back to us and engaging us further in that. And I feel like I'm a little bit early, but I also need to celebrate. We have a couple of birthdays coming up. So Commissioner Engelhardt this weekend, and Commissioner Carvajal Morand is next week, I believe. All right. Happy birthday to you. Hey.
Happy birthday. Commissioner Carvajal Moran, birthday girl.
Birthday girl. So echoing Commissioner Forney's comments, we had the opportunity to travel to Greater and Greener, and so from that conversation, I have front-headed and heartily just a lot of respect for the professionals that we work with, and also my colleagues as well. I think that it was a great opportunity to process about just the importance that we have of being a commissioner and also having a great park system. There's a lot of conversations that conversations and also workshops that we attended, and so I look forward to continue processing those and, I don't know, bringing some ideas to our board. So overall, just grateful for the opportunity, grateful to spend time with our colleagues. So yeah.
Vice President Deshpande.
Thank you, President Olson. I had a really good time at Greater and Greener too. And one of the biggest takeaways I had was, wow, we have an awesome park system in Minneapolis.
Yep.
And it's a different story than almost any other city in the country. And the types of discussions I had with different people was, it was hard for me to understand some of the issues they had, quite frankly, because of the lack of political will, the lack of funding, and the lack of care that a lot of cities suffer with when it comes to parks. One of the most startling things I heard was at one session, conservancy groups. They're basically nonprofits that form around one or two parks, and they just rely on the largesse of private corporations to maintain a park, to get some volunteers, to maintain a social media presence. And I mean, it was fundamentally a failure of governance, of municipal governments, to actually fund parks. And that's not an issue that we have in Minneapolis. We're talking about the budget now and how we need to be careful and come up with solutions that make sense. But we're not outsourcing our entire park systems to nonprofits hoping that they can get corporate dollars to mow the lawn. And that's the way it works in a lot of the United States. And I'm glad that's not the way it works here. And so one of the things that I'm going to be doing is having a lot of follow-up discussions with various municipal partners that I met around the country to show them what a good park system looks like and what structures are needed to make that happen. So it's a pet project of mine, but you'll probably be hearing about it more soon. Thank you.
Fantastic. Commissioner Rucker.
Yeah, I also attended Greater Greener in Austin, Texas. Great experience. It's my second one. The first one I went to was in Seattle in 2024. But yeah, it was a great experience, networking. One of the takes that one of the biggest takes that I took from this experience was the theme and the motto that I kept hearing throughout the whole time I was there. I was there 5 days. The motto is, it's about we, not me, when it comes to, projects. And we have to think about the entirety of the constituents when we're making decisions. And that was one of my biggest takes from there, and I'm going to continue with that. Also, the highlight for me was one of my breakout sessions was to volunteer to build a new playground, in the redlining district that has been underinvested for many, many years. So, there was a few of us there. I think it was 3 of us there, Nicole, from Minneapolis. But I think we had a total of about 50 people there. So yeah, that was one of the highlights, and just to see how different park system works was just kind of amazing to me that it's not how we operate here. I kept hearing how they get the money just straight from the city, and then private sector, which, you know, we're separate from the city. We still get money from the city, but, you know, we're our own entity when it comes to, you know, getting our money and everything. But when you say Minneapolis, everybody's eyes, oh, you're from Minneapolis? So, you know, they want to start modeling, you know, what we do here. But I'm going to continue to go to, you know, different conferences and network, you know, get different ideas and bring them to Minneapolis. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Rucker. Commissioner Frederick.
Thank you. I think I'm the last person to speak about the conference, but I also went to the conference in Austin. First time ever in the state, ever going to a conference. It was a lot of new knowledge and information. I too really appreciated being immersed inside of a conference with so many professionals. Like, we are part-time elected officials. So for us to be able to spend time in and around the work that our staff does, our incredible staff does every single day, and to just hear all the positive things that they would say about our department, we might hear it, but it's really meant for everybody else. That incredible work is nationally recognized. It is recognized by our peers, and I think that that is some of the most important recognition that a professional can have. So I really was just awestruck by the love that Austin and all of the professionals at Greater and Greener had. I met a gentleman from France who works in data analyzing and analytics, and he said that, you know, there's a project that he has done with us before, so he informed me about that, and I just thought that was a cool project to learn about as someone from such a different part of the world. And one program that I do want to highlight that I had the opportunity to embark on there was a forest bathing excursion, I guess is the better word, which is a traditionally Japanese practice. So it's seldom that you will find someone who is certified in this practice, but we had the opportunity to sit with a practitioner of this practice, and I learned that Eloise Butler hosts some of these forest bathing opportunities infrequently, but we do have these opportunities, so I just want to highlight that as something that we already offer, that I, like Commissioner Deshpande, got immense inspiration by. I think just, you know, my short hour and a half, 2 hours in that experience taught me a lot about how this might be beneficial for our young people who might have, you know, not experienced something like sitting and meditating in nature. It's kind of a foreign thing, even to, well, maybe especially to us as adults. So I pontificated on that. I'm thinking about that. I wanted to just share that today as a really big takeaway, as something that we are doing, and hope to learn how we can grow opportunities like that.
Commissioner Engelhardt.
Yeah, so a couple Saturdays ago, I had the opportunity to speak at the SAPE Beyond Walls installation at Boom Island Park, and I didn't know I would be speaking, but I was really honored to be able to do so. It was really obvious that people need to come in together in community, and people were so honored that we were chosen by this Franco-Swiss artist that chose us as the first place in the United States to do this art installation. And I mean, there were a lot of people there, and after I spoke, they came up and thanked me, vehemently, and I was like, go thank anyone that you see with a park board shirt on or staff, that the staff did this. So shout out to everyone that made that come together quickly. Christina brought a lot of joy, Eli sitting there, I mean, the names could go on, Ashling. So staff really came together quickly on that, and that was great to be together in community. We need, as much and more of that, and there are, just look at our website, there are events, and we need people to turn out and be in community. Everybody loves it when it happens, and we've had some ribbon cuttings that have been great, and, responsive to certain things like access to the bathroom for aqua volleyball players and Audubon Park. So all that stuff continues. It's just great to see people in our parks and sharing in space, and that we were recognized for standing up for all of our neighbors in our community, and we're still under threat from the federal government right now. It's ongoing, and they're very active. So it's not over, and we have deemed Operation Metro Surge to be in place for the entire term of this federal regime. Also, a highlight of my term so far was a meeting with our Park Police Chief Ohado. We went over, kind of what best practices are for managing within the realm of collective bargaining, just cause, and arbitration, and accountability. We went, there's that data is available. I went through it. We went through it together, and I was really pleased with where we're at in terms of having a culture and a real accountability in terms of what's possible within the realm of the 7 tests of just cause and managing within collective bargaining. Good job, Chief Ohado, to say the least, and that was a really pleasant meeting. As we move forward, my role as chair of the Committee of Employee Relations, there might be, less meetings in this board. There's a lot of things as the chair, like participating in LMC, working with management to work through that role. I think everybody's really happy with how that's working out, and we have big contracts coming up to bargain, and we're preparing for that and looking at how we will engage with this new committee, and engaging with someone that's on the St. Paul School Board and how they've engaged and that sort of thing. So looking at all sort of best practices and how we really are striving to be that pro-labor park board that's going for the ultimate goal of the best possible place you could work, no matter who you are, and the employer of choice. And then just kind of lastly, we have some big picture wins we're wrestling with in terms of money and that budget presentation, and looking at a 10% increase in health insurance. And health insurance itself is just a wild concept. We need health care, not health insurance. And there are the Educators Union and others are looking at, can we expand under the Minnesota Health Plan? Because just the cost that we pay for this is absurd. So, the state employee group insurance program, that rose up out of the 2001 strike, and can we expand to not have such a cost? This board is committed to new and innovative funding sources, but I think we need to look at, how can we also decrease some costs that are not necessarily providing the best outcomes. It's not a knock on the current insurance we have, it's just the system as a whole. So just kind of, that's a shout out to big systems change that we absolutely need, because it's such a huge percentage of payroll. So yeah, that's, moving on. We might have less, public meetings on the CER, but the work of the chair is plentiful, and I'll keep doing those sort of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Engelhardt. And yeah, I won't pontificate too long on the conference. Just one example to Commissioner Deshpande's point of how valuable our system is when talking about how Tulsa, Oklahoma paid for a massive project of $250 million. And someone asked, so how did you manage to pay that? How did you raise that money? The guy presenting said, get yourself a billionaire. And that, ice into my veins. That was awful to hear that. Thank God we don't have to rely on a billionaire to build anything in this city other than the taxes that they are paying. Thank God we can rely on each other and our community. We have the world's first trillionaire. SpaceX is continuing to double, and it's making nothing. It's a meme, it's a stock, and we have people starving and homeless, and I won't go too far into it, but it made me so grateful. It's so shocking to hear that and to expect that, we should be going after the grace of some billionaire to pay for public land. It was awful. Anyway. On to, I'm going to adjourn. I adjourn.
Recess.
Oh, recess. Right, because thank you for that. I got fed up, but that's another thing billionaires do. They make me screw up when we're talking about our meeting. I will recess until we have our that come up from admin and finance.
Right, at 8:19 p.m., I will call to order this meeting of the Planning Committee. Secretary Ringgold, could you call the roll?
Commissioner Carbajal Moran. Vice President Deshpande.
Here.
Commissioner Engelhardt. Vice Chair Forney.
Here.
Chair Garcia.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, the first thing we have on our agenda is to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All right, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes and we have an agenda. Next up is our minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll move the planning committee minutes of June 3rd, 2026.
All right, is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, the minutes have been adopted. That brings us to our action items. So the first item is Resolution 2026-117.
I'll move resolution approving a land exchange with the Animal Humane Society regarding property at Theodore Worth Regional Park to better align property for usable parkland.
All right. Vice President Deshpande.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. I had a couple questions. In general, I think this is a good land swap. It makes sense. It's better for the park system. But I was concerned that it seems like we basically lost track of parkland, and we're not quite sure how that happened. What are we doing in the future to make sure that these types of incidents don't happen again? And are we monitoring some of the more isolated parts of our system to keep track of them?
Chair Garcia, Commissioner Deshpande, the short answer, I guess, is two things. First of all, yes, we're monitoring it more effectively. There have been many years in the past where with a system this large, we didn't necessarily have someone that was dedicated to the real estate portfolio exclusively as their job description. That position of real property administrator, currently occupied by Christine Downey, did not always exist. And so we didn't have resources to kind of keep track of every little bit of parkland. We are doing better in the future, which is why we more frequently bring in front of you when there are encroachments or leases or things like this. So this particular land swap is a case where this might have been, some years ago, a handshake and we transfer land. And we don't want to operate that way anymore, which is why you are seeing this action.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of Resolution 2026-117, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, that resolution passes. And with that, at 8:23, I will adjourn this meeting of the Planning Committee.
So at 8:23, I will convene the Administration and Finance Committee. Secretary Ringel, would you please call our roll?
Commissioner Benny.
Here.
Commissioner Frederick. Commissioner Garcia.
Present.
President Olson.
Here.
Vice President Deshpande.
Here.
Commissioner Engelhardt.
Here.
Commissioner Rucker.
Here.
Co-Chair Carbajal Moran.
Here.
Co-Chair Forney.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor, right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Okay, on to the approval of our minutes.
I
Somebody-
will move the minutes for the Administration and Finance Committee meeting of June 3rd, 2026.
All those in favor, or I should Is there any discussion? I don't see any lights. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Okay, on to our action items. If anybody would like to remove our resolution.
I'll move Resolution 2026-110, resolution approving a 5-year contract with Perfect Mind DBA Explore Technologies for recreation management software services with a total contract amount of $409,100.
Okay. I should also remind everybody that if this passes, we will be moving that directly to the full board. So any questions or any need for, oh yes, Vice President Deshpande.
Thank you, Co-Chair Forney. I just want to thank staff for working with me on this contract and the various edits that I was requesting. And I realize it seems odd to amend a software contract, but this one I think in particular had some concerns that needed to be addressed. So they were, and I would also say that we need to be very careful with software contracts in general. I do this for my day job, and I know the types of games that these companies play, and I know the way that the market tends to consolidate and also drive up prices and lower quality. And so that's something we need to be continually cognizant of as we approve future software contracts. And so I would recommend not going more than 3 to 5 years at a time as a result. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any lights. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. Okay, now to the real stuff. Okay. Thank you for being here, Jamie and Laney. Okay. Somebody'd like to move our next resolution. I'd appreciate it.
I will move Resolution 2026-113, resolution approving 2027 to 2030 strategic directions and performance goals and adopting priority strategies from Parks for All, Minneapolis Parks and Recreation Board Comprehensive Plan 2021 through 2036 for the same 4-year time period.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this and looking forward to any discussion. I believe that Deputy Superintendent Ringel, though, might have a little presentation for us.
Co-Chair Forney, Commissioners, I think, I put this through a pretty detailed presentation at our last study item. So I think what I will just do is make sure that you know that I've got all of these on slides and can bring them up. If you want me to do a quick overview of the edits that were made and why, I can also do that, if that would be of interest.
Great. I'm not seeing any lights. Nobody wants to discuss it? Thank you, Vice President Deshpande.
I'll ask a question, sure. Thank you. I like the edits. I spent a lot of time with staff, particularly on items A2, C1, and C2, so all the natural areas work. But I'm realizing now, based on the discussion that Director Weissman just gave us, that with our strategic goals around revenue, I'm wondering if it makes sense to try to work in language that reduces, that focus on a goal on reducing our reliance on property taxes. So right now we're at 81% of our operating budget relying on property taxes. Would it make sense to say by 2030 we aim to be at 78% for talking purposes?
Secretary Ringgold, looks like, yeah.
So I thought maybe Julie might be in the room as well. Here's what I would say is when you look at the one specifically on revenue generation, we took care when we reviewed it as staff to make sure that we said non-property tax net revenue. And we did that with the clear understanding that this board was directing us to increase revenue in other categories and not property tax. But we felt kind of overall it was going to be easier to move toward increases in those other revenues versus decreases in property tax. So I guess you could do it either way as a board, but I think our knowledge and our intent in the language here is for us to start having revenue that isn't non-property tax be the focus of this particular
performance goal.
Okay, I think it's something I'll think about over the next week or two and get back to you.
Great.
President Olson?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the edits. I appreciate the bump up on the youth employment and workforce programs there, and the changes to the quality of natural areas, and I just think and just appreciation to the commissioners for the understanding of this work and the importance of it from the get. I know it takes kind of a little bit to get there with the post-its and things like that. But I'm really, really excited about the climate stuff. I mean, obviously that's, something I ran on, that's something I pushed for throughout this process. And I think we found things that we can all, that builds that into who we are as a board. I'm super excited about integrating climate planning policy into into our decision-making. That's something, I think that is something that's truly innovative if we do that. I didn't see anything like that at the conference or discussed amongst others, and I think it's gonna, push us to be thinking in really creative ways and holistic ways, and I just think that's awesome, because I think in the last several years, climate, kind of takes the back seat in so many discussions, but I think it's so critical, and I think it's going to allow us to create efficient systems. It's going to allow us to create systems that are sustainable, and I appreciate that. So just some rah-rah for what we're dealing with here.
Rah-rah. I love it. Okay. Commissioner Fredericks.
Thank you, Chair Forney. Apologies if any of this is redundant, as I stepped out for a bit too long and came back as soon as I realized where we were. So I am glad to be on this topic and to see such robust amendments to our strategic directions, echoing a lot of what Tom has already said. So I'll try to be not redundant, but I do appreciate the expansion of the natural areas and climate strategic directions, as well as the addition of a measurable goal for by the end of 2030, as I think it helps us to imagine the ways in which we can strategize around each of these goals and really work towards the goal as it's intended, with the possibility of expansion. And I think a lot of what I said previously about the recognition of staff extends to this moment. So just thank you for putting that together, listening to board input, reflecting board input in a way that really allows for us to do that cohesive work.
Thank you. No other lights? Hi. Okay. I also, rah-rah. And I say that in particular, having been to Greater and Greener, and I think I really sat down and read this more today and realized just how reflective virtually everything is of salient points that were at the conference, and that I just, we continue to lead, gang. It's really exciting. I don't want to put in a millionaire or a billionaire in here, but I feel like, I don't know how to put it in and if it should be put in, but I feel like we're at a generational point. A lot of money is going to be changing hands, shall we say, and I don't know how to say memorials or tributes or, but I know our endowment is something that we're really directing at, but I just feel like there's something that how we can maybe capture something there. And like I say, that might be too much minutia, but it hit me. Maybe it was after hearing about a millionaire. Anyway, sorry.
Co-Chair Forney, if I may. I think one of the things I really like about strategic direction D1 that focuses on the revenue is you're directing us to do a revenue strategy. You're not directing us to get locked in on any one particular part, but you're asking us to do a strategy where we might look at a whole host of opportunities. And, you know, we have heard that some of these boomers are going to be, for the first time ever, releasing dollars in big ways. And some of that might be part of our revenue strategy, but some of that might also be the foundation doing their work around the endowment. We don't know that for sure, but I think as you have it written, it lets us explore all options.
As long as you know it, to me, you know, when I just see general fund and, you know, enterprise fund, I just want to make sure that I'm pushing on that point. Anyway, yes, co-chair, Carl Moran.
I want to add another rah-rah. I'm so sorry about my voice now. I'm the one that, anyways, I just also want to add a rah-rah as well. I know that there was time and the activities just to, for this to be presented. This makes me super excited as a, you know, like as commissioner, as thinking about the priorities, and also just like me as a commissioner, my like responsibilities and like what we got to get to work on. And so I do echo Commissioner Frederick about just really appreciate all of you listening to our ideas. I know that last time I spoke, I echoed the need for training, and so I see it here, and so just like know that I don't know, just I appreciate that, and also wanted to comment on President Olson comment, or I don't know if it was Commissioner Frederick, about just that increase in youth. I know that we are in difficult times with funding, and so I know that like just the conversations that we've been having, is important that we are having these relationships with our fellow electeds. You know, like what is the messaging of our systems, and you know, just like we do amazing work. We have incredible people that, you know, incredible folks that are doing the work, and so. If anything, I'm energized, love it. So yeah, anyways, just rah-rah, thank you.
Oh, pretty amazing. I'm not seeing any other lights, so.
Co-Chair Forney, may I, as we're rah-rahing, just take a moment to, again, thank, you know, commissioners, you engaged in this in an authentic and real way and helped us get to a point of understanding of what your needs were and what your vision were, and that has really helped us hone this, I think, quite a bit. But the staff who have come alongside you, literally from across the organization, and looked at ways to take what you were thinking and have that build upon work we're doing, or the strengths that we know we have. You've seen me, you've seen the data insights, you've seen Adam, James is here tonight, Pamela was a part of it, Deb is here tonight, but we have about 25 to 30 staff across the organization who have been pulling this forward for you, and just want to make sure that they get the gratitude as well. So thank you.
Thank you. We keep on saying rah-rah, and I'm a little bit amazed that we have at least, 4 people who can even speak today. We had a few that went out and played karaoke to all hours of the night, and somebody else cheering on his favorite teams. Anyway, but I appreciate looking around, and we've got 12 people, I believe, in this room and everything that were on the at the conference, and I just really appreciate that.
Chair
so proud of you.
I'm sorry, I didn't look all the way around. We also have Jolene, Nicole, and Chris were a big part of this as well, and Jamie. Oh, and Mary Lynn is over there.
Right.
Lainey would be there if she could, but you know, we'll get her on next round. Did I miss anybody? No. All right. Thank you.
Thank you all. So with that, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. I will then adjourn the meeting and take it over to President Olson.
All right, I will recall to order the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board regular meeting And would someone please move Resolution 2026-110?
I'll move resolution approving a 5-year contract with Perfect Mind DBA Explore Technologies for recreation management software services with a total contract amount of $409,100.
Second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? With that, it passes. Before we adjourn, commissioners, you have a request for proposal, some dates and scheduling for the interviews. We had 2 proposals. Commissioner Ringo, are you handing out the other proposal? Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I seem to have 3 of the original requests for proposal. So please, commissioners, take a look at this. This is really, really critical. As we move forward for our board, our legal representation, it's critical that you all read this and that we all have a firm understanding and grasp of it moving forward. As we have these interviews and discussion and questions and yeah, make this decision going forward. So thank you for both to Littler Law Firm and to Rice, Walther, and Mosley. Thank you for sending these our way. We look forward to considering them. And with that, I will adjourn the full board.
Before 9 o'clock.